long way at a very difficult time of the semester to be here this afternoon. So as always, the coordinating board is extremely grateful for your participation and your expertise and your cooperation with all this. I know it was also hard work going through all those public comments. We had a large number of public comments, some very good ones, and it took a great deal of thought and consideration to work your way through all those and try to make sense of it all. In fairness to Texas public open meeting laws, since we had so many recommendations and since the committee voted to give further consideration to a good number of them, almost half of them, we need to come back in person to discuss all this on the record. So we're being broadcast as we were last time on the web. So please remember your microphones in front of you there to turn on your microphone so the little light is showing when you're speaking, and equally importantly, be sure to turn it off when you're not speaking so that we'll have a good, accurate record of the meeting, and those who are watching at home can see what's going on. I'm sorry that our secretary, Nina Maniotis, isn't here, so I would appreciate it if someone else could volunteer to help me as a safety net take some notes on the meeting today. We'll, of course, have it recorded so we can go back and check on some things, but sometimes the recording doesn't always get who is saying what, and we need somebody to take careful notes, especially of the wording of any votes that are made and the vote count that's made. I'll take some notes, but quite often I'm talking or typing or putting stuff on, so I miss a lot of things. So if anyone here who has a laptop would be interested in our longhand, I get those too, would be interested, do we have any volunteers to help with that? Lorraine, okay, excellent. Thank you. Anyone opposed to Lorraine Torres from UT El Paso being our secretary? I see no hands, therefore the motion fails. Lorraine is, well, thank you, I appreciate this. That's a big help. Okay, so with that, I will turn this over to our co-chairs to run the meeting. When I scheduled the meeting, we had decided to have a half-day meeting because quite often that's what it takes to do these public comments. We don't have to cover the introductory material like we do in our regular meeting, so we put a little less time. That was before, when I scheduled that was before I saw how many public comments we got and how many we voted for. So we're going to be pressured to get all this done in 4 hours. So I'll turn it, I appreciate your cooperation with our co-chairs as they try to keep us on track and keep us moving along. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alexander and Jimmy, and we'll get moving.
All right, well, we tried to figure out a good way that strategically that we could organize this. So I think we wanted to start off first with looking at the radiological sciences track. So I think that will be the first track that we attack and approach. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the comments. I'll briefly kind of discuss what we kind of voted, what we kind of voted electronically, and then open it up for any discussion, and then we'll cast a final vote. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here so everybody can kind of get to that particular track.
We will be keeping track of time, so each person will have 2 minutes to speak, and I'm going to be really strict about that. So if we have extra time, then you can speak a little more, but we really want to get done with this before the end of the afternoon.
All right, so the first recommendation was to remove ANP 2 from the radiological sciences track. Electronically, we voted overwhelmingly not to do that. And so I want to open up for discussion. Everybody having a hard time finding? See, we're flipping pages here.
The radiologic science is on table 2.
Are you looking for the comments? This has all the comments here, but I organized them by field of study, so it's not going to be in this particular order. So the first recommendation was to remove AMP2 from the radiological sciences track, and electronically we voted not to do that. Texas State.
Can I make a suggestion? That when you are talking about what we're going to do, say like LL, for example, we were talking about radiology, just say LL.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Any discussion, any comments?
I don't think it should be removed because, especially if you're radiology, you should know your anatomy.
Alex, could you clarify something for me? If we leave it in, which is what we voted to do, correct?
Correct.
That means that community colleges would need to add that, or just, I mean, you currently have that at San Jac, where radiology has anatomy too.
Correct.
So considering we don't, if it stays in, we would have to add that, or no? Because it would be
My
part.
understanding that it would have to be added.
Okay, I'm just trying to remember from a couple months ago how that works.
And if, on the second page of that sheet, you'll see that the total is 26 units. So the changes that you see with the lines crossing through things or the additions, then that totals up to 26.
So I believe the last time the discussion was, I remember, I think Dawn made a comment that on the anatomy physiology too, they focus more on the physiology. And so that's one of the reasons I think majority of people said we should leave it in there.
Any other comments before we take a final vote?
I'm sorry, I lost track of where we are. What are we proposing now?
So we are on number, it's LL. The recommendation that was to remove AMP2 from radiological sciences track.
So I do have a question. The default is to keep it in there. Does that change the total number of hours? Or are we over the total number of hours by keeping it in there? If we're not, then there's no reason to remove it, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't change the field. Yeah, it doesn't change. All right, if there,
Asking for clarification for a moment. We are talking about transfer students, correct? Transfer students who come into a university. We're talking about the courses that will be accepted in replacement for prereqs. We're not talking about building a prereq per se for four-year institutions. I just wanted some clarification on that. Because I think that by reading some of the comments, I think there is some misinformation as to what exactly the FOS is doing.
Alan, do you want to clarify that?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
It is my understanding that the FOS is a guide for transfer students who are being transferred into a university, and that these courses that we're identifying, we are saying should be accepted in replacement for a prereq per se, when
That's-
a student is transferred in.
That's right. It's not a recommendation, it would be a requirement.
Correct.
That if the student is complete in the field of study and complete in the core, and they transfer in, then they are done with all their lower division requirements.
Correct.
And that goes also for prerequisites, which is the controversial and important part of getting the field of study right. Because if there are common prerequisites for upper division courses that are usually in these programs, then we need to put those in the field of study as best we can, because an institution can't ask a student to go in and take an additional prerequisite if their field of study complete. Sometimes that's calculus. Sometimes that's a biology course, introduction to biology. Sometimes it's a physics course, where if someone says, well, I'm sorry, but you can't take our physics course until you have calculus, and calculus isn't in the field of study, then they have to still let that student in without that prerequisite. And that's okay, but that student might really be struggling and would risk risks dropping out or getting frustrated with the course or going to extra expense for tutoring to cover a calculus course that they didn't have. See what I mean?
But in that scenario, if calculus is a junior level upper division course, then it's acceptable, correct?
That's right, because at the upper division level, the field of study doesn't touch that.
I just wanted some clarification.
Just one more thing. Since the credits are capped at 64 for radiology, and currently at HCC we don't have it, so if we do this, we would have to take out technical to add AP2.
So you would not need to do this for the program, not for your program.
Okay.
This is for transfer.
Okay, that's where I was getting
Yeah.
confused on that.
I think there is some confusion across the board on this.
Yeah, I think it's real important that we clarify here. This is a strictly academic thing, and it's not a workforce CTE thing. It doesn't go to the curriculum for the workforce CTE programs. Now, what it does do is, if you do an AAS in radiologic sciences, and then you complete the field of study core and transfer that to a four-year college, then it meets the requirements for that Bachelor of Science, Radiologic Sciences, plus you have the CTE courses in rad, so.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and take a final vote. The last vote was voted 2 for and 7 against to not remove the AMP2 from the radiological sciences track. So we will go ahead and take a vote here again. So all those in favor to remove the AMP2 from the radiological sciences track, you could show hands. All right. So those that would want to keep the track in, keep AMP2 in the track, would please show sign of hands. Okay, unanimous decision, all right. So we will not be removing the AMP2 from radiological sciences. Moving on to the next recommendation, which is MM on your comment sheet. And the recommendation was to remove General Chemistry 2 from the Radiological Sciences track. We voted in favor to do that, 7-1. So I want to open that up for discussion.
I think that if there's no discussion.
No discussion? All right. All right, so we'll go ahead and move to vote. So I guess, so the recommendation is we're recommending not to remove Well, we're recommending to remove the general chemistry 2 from the radiological science track. All in favor? Oppose? All right, motion passed.
Okay, we need to say the vote count out loud for those on the watching. So it's, was that 9 votes in favor of removing it and 0
10,
to keep it? 10?
10
10?
votes.
1, 2,
Right, is it 10 of us?
Okay.
1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there's 10 of us.
Okay.
All right, so the next recommendation, NN.
Wait.
Oh, okay.
General Chem 2, is that in the radiological?
It is.
Oh, there it is.
We
I'm sorry.
voted to remove it. All right, you got
Okay,
it?
I'm sorry.
All right, so next recommendation was to remove General Physics 2 from the Radiological Sciences track. Electronically, we favored 6-3 on removing General Physics 2. Open up the floor for discussion. So no discussion? All right, so we will call it to a vote. The vote is a motion to remove General Physics 2 from the Radiological Sciences track. All those in favor? So unanimous. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Okay. All right, so we have 9 in favor. Oppose? We have 1 oppose. So motion passes to remove the General Physics 2 from the Radiological Sciences track. And we'll move on to the last recommendation here, 00. And the recommendation was to add Biology 2 to the Radiological Sciences track. Open up the floor for a discussion. Well, let me tell you, we voted 5-3 for adding Biology 2. Open up the floor for discussion.
I am not in favor. We already added AMP 1 and 2 in there. In general biology 1 and 2, you don't learn that much about the human anatomy. I'm against it.
Okay.
But don't you have to have biology 2 as a prerequisite for AMP?
Yeah, that's not an ACGM requirement or any other requirement. That's a college by college requirement. It was only about a year ago that El Centro actually added biology 1406 as a prerequisite for AMP 1 and 2. And that was only done because we thought it would help students have a better understanding of the scientific method and do better in 1 and 2, or AMP 1 and 2, but it's not required.
So if it's not required, it sounds as if we may want to just leave that one off and not add that, so that each individual facility could have that if they wanted to or not.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to point out here. That, if there's room in the field of study, and right now we're at 52 hours on this one, for a 4-year college to add a 4-hour biology degree or biology course, I'll get it out. If there's room in the field of study for a 4-year college to add a 4-hour biology course to their bachelor degree plan, then I don't know that we need to be so prescriptive as to say this has to be there or it doesn't have to be there, right? And there seems to be some variance as to whether or not people believe it's necessary or beneficial. And so I think on some of these things, we really just can just leave it up to the four-year college to determine, and the junior college, community college to determine whether or not they're going to put that into their actual degree plan. It doesn't answer doesn't solve the problem of sometimes things won't transfer. But you can't be prescriptive about everything for every college, community, and four-year. And there has to be some flexibility in that.
Right, I agree. I'd rather leave it to each college as elected for them to decide.
That would give us a total of 22. That would put the total at 22 if my calculation is correct. So keeping in A and P, general chemistry, 1, physics, 1, and taking off biology, 2, and physics, 2. That would give us 22 credits for that.
So just to be clear, we're saying that any transfer student coming into university, if they are FOS complete, then they are complete with their prereqs for every institution. 22 hours.
FOS complete and also core complete.
But what if the institution requires it? And they have to accept it by not having it?
We have to accept.
All right.
For your upper division courses, you may require additional courses, but that's outside of the core that they transferred over.
All right, kind of judging from what so I'm going to propose the motion not to add Bio 2 to the radiological sciences track. All those in favor? We have a unanimous decision. Opposed? All right, motion passes not to add biology 2 to radiological sciences track. And I think that concludes that track. So good job, good job.
Okay, so are you content with the field of study as it appears on the screen for radiological sciences? It would include pre-calculus math. What is pre-calculus math? Is that college algebra? No. Pre-calculus math would include A&P 1 and 2, includes general psychology, general chemistry, and college physics. 22-hour field of study. Does that look okay to everybody?
General physics.
Okay.
That's correct.
Can we have a motion to accept that as the track for radiological sciences?
I'll make a motion. We need a second.
I second. Veronica.
Chairs call for the vote.
Okay, are there any substitutions that you want for any of those courses? Like, for example, you could take, well, there aren't any substitutions for those, right? This college physics is the only physics course, isn't it? And general chemistry 1 is the only physics. It's not like chemistry for non-science majors or some other alternative like that. Okay, that's good. Great.
So it has been moved and seconded to accept the field of study for radiologic sciences with 22 units as written.
All right, so next we're going to move on to the general academic track. Everybody found the general academic track? All right. So the first recommendation for the general academic track is A, and it says to remove general psychology. We voted against doing this 3-7. I'll open up the floor for discussion. I need to look and see.
Was an option suggested instead of general psychology? Did they prefer another social and behavioral science?
No, the comment actually was that it's not part of their Bachelor of Science program for health sciences, so they didn't want it.
But this could be part of their core requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I think we discussed this a little bit before. The general psychology course is one of the most common ones in two-year colleges for health sciences. The one thing that I would suggest as an alternative to that is to consider allowing the social studies course as an option. Vast majority of allied health science programs do choose psychology to fit the core requirements. Some of them will choose social studies, social science, and that's pretty rare. But that might satisfy this this request. I don't know what their course requirement is. They don't have the general psych course, but that might help with that also.
So you're recommending that we change the verbiage to general social science, and they can choose between psychology and sociology? But what happens if they pick economics?
You know, what's interesting is when I went to the website, general psychology was listed as an option, so I don't know if there's some confusion as to.
Yeah, and I probably ought to be more specific. When I say social science, generally it's introduction to sociology is the other option. And so they're pretty prescriptive about introduction to sociology or psychology, but some of them will actually allow them to choose whatever. But
Okay, so maybe we could change it to if one or the other. Be very specific, psychology or sociology.
That would certainly give some more flexibility to the individual institutions if that was an either or.
But then I guess I have to ask, is it really necessary to include it here if it is included in the core? And those are our two options.
I think the problem would be if the core didn't require either one, but required something else in social sciences. And I don't know what that would be.
That's correct, because in the core, it's usually listed as a general social science. So if the individual takes economics, then it would not be qualified here.
In which case, then it would have to state specifically either psychology or sociology. So if there's no more discussion, then we need a motion to add the verbiage or psychology, general psychology or, sociology. for those 3 credits.
Wait. I'm confused. Add sociology as a choice with either or general psychology? Is
Yes.
that what you're saying?
So it would be general psychology or sociology.
Is that the introduction to sociology?
Yes.
So AA is to remove general psychology, so we're not voting on that? You're changing it to, you're amending it.
We need to vote on the first.
I think you need to vote for A. Vote for A and then we can amend.
But AA is actually for
I mean, not
public
AA,
health.
A,
Okay.
A. I'm sorry.
So yes, we will have to clarify.
So can we vote on A?
Vote on A, then we add amended.
Then we add an amendment.
So let's see, so a motion to not to remove general psychology from the health services general academic track. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, so vote to remove general psychology from the academic track. All those in favor? Opposed? Yeah. So all those in favor?
Favor of removing it.
To remove. In favor to remove. From the track. So all those in favor to remove the general psychology track?
Is 1. What? 2. 2 votes.
2. All right. And opposed? All right, so 8 opposed, 2 for, 8 opposed, so motion does not carry.
So now we would need a motion to amend the language.
Peter will make the motion.
All right. All right, all opposed? I mean, all in favor? In favor? All right, opposed?
Wait. Was that 5 votes in favor?
No, 10 in favor,
10 in favor.
no opposed. Motion carries to add general introduction to sociology to the field of study as an or option to psychology. All right, so the next, let's see.
That actually makes our general academic, Table 1, complete.
Oh, no, there's a couple more recommendations.
Oh,
Yeah, there's
sorry.
a couple more.
Sorry.
Let's see. The next one is N, which is, there was a comment to add an additional science course to the general academic track. We voted not to do this 3-6. I'll open up the floor for a discussion.
Additional science courses could be upper level.
Yeah.
Is that why there's the, adding the micro on the second page of the table 1? Micro, okay, so the N says add additional science courses, if yes, specify. So on the second page, for the table 1, Peter, on this one, it has choose the following micro or And then you also have medical terminology and career health.
Right. Well, and that was under my justification for rejecting proposal KK was because microbiology is usually an upper division course.
But that's clinical lab. Oh, and general.
Okay, so it looks like there's two comments here. So there's one to add a science course, but there was no mention of a specific course to add. And then there was a different comment from a different institution recommending, let's see, KK, recommending to add microbiology to the general academic track. So I guess depending on how we vote on KK, that may address the previous comment. So let's move to KK, where the recommendation was to add microbiology to the general academic track. We voted 7-3 electronically for this to happen. Open up the floor for discussion.
So KK is really talking about two different tracks. Should we break that up?
We are breaking it up. So
Focusing on general academic?
yeah, we're just going to focus on the general academic track.
Well, I was one of those who voted against this proposal, like I said, because this is an upper division course, which I think is out of our scope.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Because microbiology are also offered at the 200 level in a lot of universities and community colleges these days.
That is true. For us, we do offer it at the junior level.
So is microbiology needed for general studies in health sciences or health services?
Is physics? Is physics, because
Right.
JJ is saying physics, and then KK is saying micro. Are they really needed? Or is it just because it would be nice for the students to have this extra knowledge?
You don't want physics. So JJ,
Right now, the focus is on KK.
all right.
Correct. KK. The recommendation to add micro. Any other comments?
Dawn, you're the general person. What are your thoughts?
For micro, for general academic track, I'm not sure that it's necessary, because we're talking about people that are going into a wide variety of health careers here. And even those that require micro will do it different from one program. Nursing does micro completely different from everybody else, right? And so I don't know that for a general academic track, specifying a micro course is necessary. I think that's going to be addressed by the different disciplines, what we need to do with micro. If you do specify, or if we do, I should say, specify micro, then I think we have to make it an or. There's a microbiology for science majors and a microbiology for non-science majors. That non-science majors, I think most people know it, but they don't think about it. Non-science majors really actually means health sciences, right? And so if we leave that non-science majors microbiology out, we're doing a disservice to ourselves if we decide to include this. I'm not sure it's necessary to include it, though. I don't know what the benefit to a lot of the students would be that were in this track to go into something else in health sciences.
My only concern is, what if this general health services degree is their end degree? They're not going to anything else. Then a microbiology for non-science majors would be helpful, applicable to that individual.
Yeah, and for me, if we look at this general academic track, this is for things like Bachelor of Science, Healthcare Administration, Health Science Management, or Healthcare Management, those kind of things. I don't see anybody going into RAD doing the general track. or going into respiratory doing the general track or whatever, right? I don't see them doing the general track. If they're going into some of the other things, then this is probably what they're doing, but they're not going to be using a lot of micro.
If we add microbiology, that's going to put us up to 30 credits, and it's also been suggested to add medical terminology and career explorations. So just keep in mind that if we add microbiology, we're already up to 30.
So to me, adding this course for someone this is their terminal degree, is not so much the application part. It's more of a general knowledge, knowing that, yes, there are a lot of microbes out there. They're not going to apply their trade and identify that microbe, but at least they know with that knowledge that they'll learn to wash their hands when they touch something that is contaminated. I think it'll benefit the students in general if this is their terminal degree.
Yeah, but does that really speak to outcomes? You know, I mean, what is the outcome for that then? You know what I mean?
I think it's important for even the general public to know about general micro, and it's already stated here, you could pick one for science majors or non-science majors. I think it's important for people to know general micro.
And I think they'll get a little bit too of general micro in Bio 1 and 2. So I mean they'll get some flavor of it. You know, it won't be to the extent of micro, of course, or as in depth, but for a general degree, we do have Bio 1 and 2 in here, and I think they may get a sense of.
I don't know, because in general bio 1 and 2, when you learn about micro, it's more of identification. In microbiology, you also learn the pathology, and I think that's the important thing, is how to stay away from contaminations, how to clean up yourself if you touch red meat and then touching your salads, right? So it's a little different there.
Just the interest of transparency, I actually voted yes on this one to start with, so.
And the vote was 7-3 previously, so most people actually did vote to add microbiology.
Yeah, I think I voted to add it, but I think I kind of changed my mind because I think we already have about 12 hours of science. So, yeah, adding this would be 16. So ready to call it the vote? So the recommendation was to add microbiology to the general academic track. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. Oppose? 4 oppose. So motion passes to add microbiology to the general academic track. So that also then takes, let's see.
Okay, is that do you know what course number that is offhand?
I have a comment on KK. There's actually a typo in that. It's under the respiratory care section. So they really meant it to apply along with physics. They meant it apply to respiratory care. So microbiology is already in clinical lab science.
Okay. Is that a 4-hour course, microbiology?
Mm-hmm.
With lab, it's 4 hours.
Is there an option of a 3-hour lecture and a 1-hour lab?
They have bio 24-21 for science majors, and the lab is 21-21. And then the non-science majors is 24-20 combination or Bio 2320 and Bio 2120.
Okay, so do we want to dictate if it's the microbiology for science majors or for non-science majors, or offer them the choice?
It says choose one.
Yeah,
They can
they
pick.
would have a choice. It would be an or option.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
So this kind of takes the place of N, where the comment was to add additional science course to the general academic track. We just did that, so we'll move on to the next. Let's see, the next comment was to create a new...
Can we back up a second?
Oh, yes.
Because N actually says add additional science courses to the general academic track, and our vote was no. And now we're saying it's a yes, so I guess we really actually need to address that formally.
Well, it said to, specifically name the courses, so we specifically named micro.
Yeah, that's what I said. We just need to address that formally
Yeah.
instead of just kind of going over and saying we kind of did that. So.
So,
Oh,
so
okay.
we'll vote on, okay, we'll go ahead and vote on it. Let's see, so we'll take a vote to add an additional science course to the general academic track. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4. Against? 3. So motion carries. We added a new course to the track. All right, so the next comment is O, create a new ACGM course modeled on career explorations in healthcare and add it to the general academic track. So we voted to do this 4-3. So I'll open up the floor for discussion.
Can someone explain to me the benefit of doing this? Because I don't know.
I think the benefit is, with this being a general academic track, I think the benefit that institutions are thinking that this course will have is that it'll give students a general overview of all the different career options in healthcare. I think the disadvantage to that is that institutions across the state have figured out different ways to include career exploration, for example, in those freshman orientation courses and things of that nature. So I don't think that the transferability of this course would be very great.
At some places, and I'm gonna throw Collin College under the bus here. Students go to certain institutions thinking they're going into health science, and they think health science is nursing and medicine. And they don't know what other options are available to them. And then they don't get into the nursing program, and they're not aware of what they can and can't do with what they already have. And I think the value of a course like this is to give them a broader view of what healthcare is. Also speaks to that multidisciplinary piece that we work on so hard in healthcare that we're not very good at. If you get exposure early on to other areas of healthcare, and understanding of how those areas fit with what you want to do, then you'll be a better practitioner in the long run. And I think that kind of speaks to that.
I guess I'm not against the course itself, and I understand the purpose of it, but if we create this and put it in the field of study, then universities have to accept that course in there as part of the field of studies to add to it.
And that's where I see
burdensome.
the problem. The problem being is, again, is having to, decrease your semester credit hours. This is what a 3 credit hour. This will be a 3 credit hour course, and so I think I don't think that a lot of places would have room for that.
We ran some numbers with the help of my colleague Rebecca Leslie, who I'm very indebted to for this. It looks like only 2 universities offer this course, UT Dallas and Sam Houston State. And at UT Dallas, it's a one semester credit hour course. So with just 2 universities offering the course, it would be a challenge, I think, to get this accepted as a full ACGM new course. It's possible if you want to recommend it, if you think it's necessary, but I think it'd be challenging to get all the other universities besides these two to accept it to their program. And even with these two, if you make it a 3-hour course, it would be problematic for even UT Dallas to accept a 3-hour course in lieu of their 1-hour course. So that's always something to consider.
To me, I always thought a course like this is unnecessary because there's really the job of the college advisors and counselors.
All right, any further comments? All right, we'll call it to vote. All those in favor of adding a new ACGM course on career explorations in healthcare to the general academic track? All those in favor? None opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Motion fails. The next recommendation, T, require calculus in the general academic track. We voted against this 2-9. I'll open up the floor for discussion. No discussion? All right, then we'll call it the vote. The motion is to add calculus to the general academic track. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous opposed. So motion fails.
Is calculus a frequent prerequisite for any upper division courses that these students are likely to major in? Okay.
Let's see, next recommendation is to require General Chemistry 2 in the general academic track. This is U. We voted 3-6 against that. I'll open up the floor for discussion. I'm getting the hint there's no discussion. All right, we'll call it to vote. The motion is to add General Chem 2 to the general academic track. All those in favor? Opposed? Looks like unanimously opposed. Motion fails. Let's see, next recommendation was to add a computer course to the general academic track. They did not specify the course. We voted against this 3-6 in the, oh, DD. It's in DD. DD. D is in dog, DD. So this is a recommendation to add a computer course to the general academic track. No recommendation on course was provided. Electronically, we voted 3-6 against. I'll open up the floor for discussion. No discussion. We'll go ahead and take a vote. So the motion is to add a computer course to the general academic track. All those in favor? Oppose? Unanimous vote oppose. Motion fails. Next, we're going to EE. And this was a recommendation to add an economics course to the general academic track. We voted against this electronically 2-8. I'll open up the floor for discussion.
Can we add that to the general psychology, sociology / economics? to have them choose?
That is an option.
I feel like the point of the psych and the sociology course is orientation to understanding of patient issues. And I'm not sure economics goes that same direction. I think economics has a different purpose. If we want to add economics, that's one thing, but I think it has a different purpose from those two to make it an or. Then it's kind of a disservice to individuals going into healthcare, I think.
I agree with Dawn. In psychology and sociology, you're dealing with people. Economics dealing with money. They're two separate things.
I'd like to make one comment. We have a new health sciences bachelor's degree, and it's kind of a combo of different tracks, and one of those tracks is more towards administration, management, and so forth, and so that's why they proposed the economics. But I like the idea that Laurie had of adding that as another option for people that are thinking more of a managerial type track in healthcare, not a patient care type track.
So Dave, wouldn't it be better if we offer that as an additional course rather than either or to the other three or to the other two? Because essentially, if you offer it as either or to all three, then the individual just picks one, and he'll miss out the other. He or she will miss out the other part. But if you offer it as an additional, then you would have addressed both the people and the finance portion.
I'm not sure I understand.
Does your degree have a psych or sociology course in it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and it has the economics also?
It's in our core, we have the social science, I forget the core number, but it's a choice, psychology or sociology or economics is one of those in that common core number.
So then are you hoping to graduate individuals who manage either the money or the people or both?
Well, both. You can't really separate people from the money.
Typically, the people who are handling the money are not necessarily people.
I have no further comment.
Any other comments?
If we add the economics, what does the number of hours come up to? Because
That would put it up to 35.
at 35. And then we still have to discuss medical terminology?
But it could be less than 35 because before this discussion is over, I would like for you to revisit having composition 1 and 2 and college algebra included in the field of study. And I can explain a little bit more about that when we get there.
Correct, yeah. So let's see. Well, okay, so this one's EE, so add an economics course to the general academic track. All those in favor? We have 3 opposed. 7, so motion fails. All right, so the next one is FF, which is create a course in medical terminology for the ACGM and add it to the general academic track. We voted in favor of this 7-5. I'll open up the floor for a discussion.
In some places, this is only a 1-credit class, and I think that many institutions are actually incorporating medical terminology into their course of study rather than having it as a separate class where all you're doing is memorizing words. So rather that becomes an applicable chore or task so that you're connecting the terminology with whatever it is that you're learning rather than having that as a separate thing.
Completely agree.
Me too.
Sorry, here's how this has been working in Texas. The data show that 8 of these institutions that offer the course somewhere in their curriculum, I don't know how many courses that is. That's how many programs that is. Of those 18 programs, 18 offer it at the lower division, although not all of them are necessarily using them in clinical lab science, which we'll get to. 21 offer medical terminology, but they offer it at the upper division. And as you can see here, what Dr. Francis said is correct, that some institutions offer it at 3 semester credit hours, several offer it at 1 semester credit hour here. Nobody offers it at 2, so it seems to be fairly evenly split, slightly more offered at the 3-hour than the 1-hour level. And just because it's offered at a university doesn't necessarily mean it's required for general health services. So it might be required in nursing, it might be required in kinesiology, but it might not necessarily be required in their degree program. You can tell by the variety of the rubrics here. I mean, look at how many different departments are offering medical terminology here. That suggests that the course is widely used in several different programs, but not necessarily. So we'd have to go one by one through the catalogs of each of the institutions to know for sure, and maybe you know at your own institution if medical terminology is required for the degree program, and if so, is it at the lower division?
Any other comments?
What, I just want to go out on a limb. I agree with the comments made earlier. If this course is not reinforced through other applicative courses, then it's just a memorization and it goes in and out the 1 year by the students. Doesn't remember any of it afterwards.
I think that depends on the course and the philosophy behind the course as well. I see all these. I didn't know there was a 1-hour medical terminology course that was even available. To me, that's a gloss course. That you're just skimming over the content. But if you go to a 3-hour course, you spend more time in that course, incorporate critical thinking, understanding how to combine words, then you're actually learning the language. So I think if we consider a medical terminology course for the ACGM, there needs to be some input about what the outcomes for that course is. It's at a higher level.
Because you have to safeguard against a 3-hour course, they're just adding more words. I mean, a good example of that, growing up, going through Bible school, I can learn all the names in the Bible. They are confusing as ever. But if you don't put it in a context, put it in a story, I would never remember who's what.
So I have a question. Who would make this course? If we make a recommendation that medical terminology needs to be created and ACGM and 3 credit hours, then who makes that course and determines the student learning outcomes so that it doesn't become just a rote memorization course of a list of words?
It goes through a couple of layers. You would recommend the creation of the course and recommend some course description and perhaps learning objectives. But you don't get to make that final call. What happens then is we assemble a second committee of faculty from across the state, equally divided between community colleges and universities. It's usually a smaller committee of up to 12 people, I think. That's called a Learning Objectives Committee. And they would consider while they're there, they would consider all of the courses in the ACGM relevant to your discipline. They would they would look at the course syllabi that are already offered all around the state. They would look at every single course syllabus of medical terminology that's taught anywhere in the state. It's a big job. And they would compile a list of the common denominators in all of those courses, and then from that would write the wording of the course description and the learning objectives. It would go out for public comment. I would invite all of you to weigh in on it and see if it accurately reflected your intentions. Then it goes to, once it passes there, it would go to the ACGM, full ACGM committee, and get passed by them, and then on to the full board for final approval. So you don't create the course, but you recommend it, and your recommendation would, of course, be extremely strong. I mean, if you want to put a course in the field of study, then that shows that the course will certainly be used and is certainly important to you. So it would be unusual if they didn't accept your recommendation. But you wouldn't be the ones tasked with doing the research to actually create the details of the course.
So my last comment on this, then, if I'm in favor of moving into a 3-hour, but with defined objectives and learning objectives. But if we move to that route, then I don't think that it should be a undergraduate level course. It should be an upper level graduate course, because the student would have an opportunity to at least learn the basics during their prereqs and then be able to absorb that at the higher level. Then if you introduce this for the first time as an undergraduate or as the freshman or sophomore level.
I think that's where the challenge is, because then by us including in this field of study, we're opening it up to the lower level. All right. I just had one other comment on this, is that one of the things that I've seen across a lot of different institutions is with with everybody, in flux with, semester credit hours, this seems to always be one of those courses that gets taken out, and degrees have figured out ways to include it in their curriculum without it being a standalone course. So I have seen that across where where medical terminology is incorporated within the curriculum, but it's not necessarily a standalone course. So. And with that being said, we'll open up the floor for a vote. Let's see. So the motion is to create a medical terminology course for ACGM and add it to the general academic track. All those in favor? We have 1. Oppose? 9. So motion fails.
I abstain.
Oh, well, we have 1 abstain. So 8. We have 1 abstain. All right, so moving to the next recommendation, GG. Add nutrition and diet therapy to the general academic track. We voted 2 for, 6 against doing this. I'll open up the floor for discussion. No discussion? All right, so the motion is to add nutrition and diet therapy to the general academic track. All those in favor? None. Oppose? It's unanimous. The motion fails. All right, so the next one is JJ. And this is to add physics to the general academic track. We voted 2 to 9 against doing this. So I'll open up the floor for discussion.
And are we doing just the general academic part on this one, because it's got clinical life science?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so we're gonna follow back on that one when we get to that field of study.
I just don't see any benefit adding this course to the CLS track.
Yeah.
Academic.
Or, sorry, we're talking about
Academic.
academic first?
Academic.
Oh, that's right, okay.
All right, so we'll call it to vote to, the motion is to add physics to the general academic track. All those in favor? Oppose? Okay, unanimous oppose, all right, motion fails. And so I believe that concludes all of the general academic track.
Let me say a few words about composition 1 and 2 and college algebra. This has been something that we've been discussing internally at the coordinating board since our first meeting. So this is something I wanted to, that's kind of changed really. Well, it's not changed, but we've articulated it a little better. Generally, it's not really necessary to put courses in the courses in the field of study if you can assume that a majority of your students are going to come in with that course already prepared, or they're going to have taken it in high school, or they're going to commonly place out of it in the SAT or ACT. So for example, the course you want to put in your field of study is the starting point course for your discipline. And if there are some students, a minority of students, who need some preparatory courses or even developmental education courses to get up to the point where they are ready to start the field of study at the starting point that you've determined, then that's fine. They've got room in their degree plan to do that as electives. But to require it of everyone means that every student who takes Composition 2 and they didn't place out of it, for example, or college algebra and they didn't place out of it, if they take it at the community college, then that means the university they transfer to by law has got to find room for those credits to apply to the degree program when that student transfers. So for the case of college algebra, which you have here, if a student doesn't ready for college algebra, they take college algebra, they transfer, the university they transfer to has got to find 3 hours in the major for that college algebra course. Whereas most of the other transfer students who are coming in, it's really not an issue because they all placed out of it or they took it in high school. So my encouragement to you would be to give some thought to maybe not including Composition 1, 2, or college algebra in what's dictated in the field of study. That would reduce the credit hours down to a more manageable number. That would reduce it by 9 semester credit hours. That would reduce it by down to 23, which is a good solid number for a field of study to be, since that has to exist with the Common Core. And that might give people a little more flexibility. The only field of study that requires Composition 1 and 2 is the English field of study, and they put it in more for symbolic reasons than anything else. Like, come on, you got to have Composition 1 and 2. And the only field of study that requires college algebra right now is an engineering technology degree. And those engineering technology fields of study were done many years ago, not many, but a couple of years ago, before this kind of new wave of field of study committees was reintroduced, when we've been much more consistent about our policy. And those committees are going to be coming back before too long to reconsider. So you might want to entertain a motion to remove Composition 1 and 2 and college algebra from the field of study. Of course, it's up to you. If you feel like your students must have algebra and that most of your students are not coming in already prepared for it, then you might want to consider keeping it and requiring it, because that way you're going to make very certain that every student has those skills. But if that's really only going to apply to a minority of students, then you can just assume that they'll take it as an elective if and when they need to.
But the major difference here is going to be between the four-year universities and the community colleges. They may be coming in prepared at the four-year universities for Composition 1 and 2 and algebra, but most of the community colleges, they are not. They're just not at that level.
Well, they've still got, of the 56 hours here that we've identified for them, that they've still got these hours to take those courses baked into the assumption that they're going to be taking these courses in the 60 semester credit hours that they've got. So students can still take, I mean, just because a student's taking a course at a community college doesn't mean it's a course that is necessary for the field of study.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just pointing out that there's a flaw in the thought process here to say that it's not necessary because so many students, or majority of students, are coming in prepared when they're really not coming in prepared. We can still allow that room for them to take it if they need it. And I'm going to vote for this because that's a good solution. But the idea that they're all coming in prepared, or the majority of them are coming in prepared for Comp 1, 2, and algebra to place out of, that's a fallacy.
I agree with you. I think our students are coming in very unprepared, but I'm also going to vote to take these off.
Is college algebra a prerequisite for any of the other courses in this field of study?
College algebra, I think, is definitely needed for Gen Chem, I
Is it
believe.
required for general chemistry
I
1?
believe, right?
Well, then you've already solved your problem, essentially. I mean, I hate to call it a hidden prerequisite, and it is maybe a hidden prerequisite for some students who will need to take it. But for most students, when they start to take the field of study, they get into general chemistry. If they haven't already placed out of college algebra, that's the time that they'll have to take college algebra and find room for it in their 60 hours that they have for their, before transfer. If you didn't have general chemistry in here, right, and then didn't have college algebra, it might be more of a worry because then it would be possible for a student to be field of study complete and even core complete going into the upper division without knowing college algebra, which would be us dooming that poor student to failure in the major, right? But since it's required for chemistry, and chemistry is in the field of study, I think it's safe to assume algebra is going to be baked in to your student learning objectives by the time they're finished with the field of study.
Yeah, actually, since it is required for chemistry and chemistry is required in this field of study, why don't we just put it in? If that's the case. I mean, they're going to have it one way or the other, right?
Right.
Well, if we put it in, then the students who have tested out of it are still going to have to take it. Am I correct in that? Or if they've tested out, they don't have to take it and they get the credits for
Yeah,
it?
they don't have to take it if they're placed out of it, nor do they get credit for it. They just get to leapfrog over it and begin at a different starting point.
I apologize, but I need some more clarification again. Every once in a while, I need a reminder of how this works. So if a student completes the FOS, but not the core, transfer overs to the other institution, then does that FOS substitute for the core? I will have to accept that FOS and then not require that student to complete my core. Is that the definition of that?
If you mean if they transfer without being core complete,
Right, but FOS complete.
but FOS complete, right? If they're still not core complete, right, then they'll still have to take what remains in their core component areas that
By
they're
my
still missing.
requirements.
Uh,
So then what's the purpose of the FOS then? If they have to complete what I asked them to require to complete anyway? Or what's the advantage of a student? Why can't a student go into starting at a university or community college, only take the FOS and then transfer to another university and they say, look, I'm FOS complete. Why do I have to take your core?
Well, because they still have to have the general core to graduate. I mean, they don't have the choice of not completing the core.
But then if I come to you completing the core, why do I need a FOS?
Because it's the courses have to apply to the major. So if they have completed courses in the core, they might not have chosen the same courses that you're identifying for the field of study.
Okay.
It's fine if the field of study and the core overlap, even if they overlap 100%. I mean, that's very helpful to the student because if all of the courses in your field of study are also in the core, and it checks off the boxes nicely here for all of the core component areas, then that's great. Your students then have more flexibility of courses they can take either as electives or courses that will help them prepare, or foreign language courses or anything else in that first 60 hours before transfer. Or they can go ahead and transfer before they have 60 hours. and then have more room in their 120 hours for your upper division courses.
Okay.
But the way you have it here, I mean, you can see here where your field of study courses overlap with the core curriculum. It's these
Right.
courses here in blue, right?
So in this case, since they have to take that core anyway, the English one, or the composition 1 and 2, and the algebra,
Right.
the individual, when individual transfers, those courses most likely will have been taken.
Right.
So we don't need to put it in the FOS.
That's what I'm saying. That's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, this goes back to the discussion we had in the very first meeting about the core. The Texas Common Core 42-hour transfer core is essentially a part of what we're doing anyway. It's already there, right? It's not something we have to do anything to. My original belief was that we were here to do those things that are different from the core, specific to these fields of study. And so we don't need to be discussing composition 1 and 2, algebra. Those things are in the core,
Right.
right? What we need to be discussing are those things that are different, unique to a general academic health services track or a clinical lab sciences field of study track, et cetera. Those things that are unique and outside of the core. And I'm kind of going back to that idea, honestly.
Right, because the courses in the field of study have to apply to the major. And the U.S. Constitution, Texas history, English composition, those are baked into the core already. Yeah. And if you don't care for other parts of the core, like creative arts, if you don't care what course they pick because it's not relevant to your degree plan, then leave it blank and let the student follow their own interest with that.
I think we added it last time, if I remember correctly, because we wanted to keep this general FOS very general and basic. And it's grown in the opposite direction from my view. I think it's getting a little bit more involved and advanced. And so these basic courses that we identified last time, now we're tending to view them as, core. Instead of, last time I think we added them because we wanted to add the hours to the FOS. But now we really don't need to add those hours.
Yeah, and I think we added the algebra the last time because you can actually go through the Common Core, get 42 hours of gen ed at the two-year college and not have a single math course and be core complete. And the discussion was that, well, do we really want healthcare practitioners who haven't ever had any math, I think that's why we added it the last time. And so I guess now the decision is, do we feel we need to keep it for that reason, or do we just leave it open for students to go ahead and do whatever? Because if you take a 4-hour science course, it satisfies the math science requirement of the general core.
Can I make a motion to delete composition 1, 2, and college algebra?
Well, maybe amend that motion to delete English composition 1 and 2, but
Keep
keep
the
the
code, yeah,
algebra.
that's what I was,
Okay. Okay.
that's what I was gonna say,
Just
yeah.
delete the composition 1 and 2.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to delete composition 1 and 2. All those in favor?
Don't we need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we have a motion and we have a seconded to delete composition 1 and 2. All right, so all those in favor? So unanimous decision here. All right, opposed? No. All right, motion carries to delete composition 1 and 2 from the general academic track. And then I think, Alan, you want us to vote on the finalized track?
Well, do you want to make a motion for college algebra too?
No,
I
we're
think we'll
keeping
keep it in there.
Going to keep college algebra?
Yeah.
because some general education core, you can satisfy it by having the science without the math. So that's why I want to make sure the math is in there.
Well,
Because it says math or science. So if someone takes science, not the math, then they would have completed the core without taking the math. And we feel that in this particular study, they got to have some level of math.
well,
Is that right,
is algebra a requirement prerequisite for general chemistry?
We'd have to pull up the ACGM because I don't think any of us are familiar enough with the course to know. Can we pull up the ACGM and look at it?
Yeah. What was the course, general chemistry?
1411 or 1311?
It has a, let's see, general chemistry. I'm sorry, what's the course number?
1311 or 1411?
Yes. It does, general chemistry 1 does have the college algebra prerequisite to it.
So does removing it then make it a hidden prerequisite?
Sorry,
If we remove it from the field of study, would it make it a hidden prerequisite?
essentially, right. But would that only be a problem for a set number of students? Is college algebra really the starting block where you want this to be? Or would you rather have it so that students could take another course of their choice for the math component area of the core? And if it requires college algebra as a prerequisite, then so be it, and those students can do what they need to do to get up to that point.
Yeah, my thought is if it's a prerequisite for chemistry, then they need to be directed to take 13, 14, as opposed to just allowing to be a math course to be math complete in the core, right?
Oh, well, that is true. That's a good point, that if a student could take some other math course besides college algebra when they needed college algebra to get chemistry, they start taking chemistry in their second semester, they realize they made a mistake and they should have been taking college algebra. And then they have to take an additional college algebra course in addition to whatever math course they did take.
And so in that case, they need to be directed towards 13, 14.
If you think most students need that direction.
Well, I mean, that would be my thought. If a student comes in and they look at the general core for whatever college, and they see they just have to take a math course, and it's not directed to math 13, 14, there's no telling what they'll take. They'll take whatever they want. And then they get down to chemistry, and they haven't had 13, 14, now they've got to go take that course too. And essentially, we've required them to take 2 math courses.
I'll make this point as well. If they are required to take college algebra on the FOS, then it counts twice as a prereq to chemistry and on the FOS. And so it's actually really beneficial to just leave it on there.
All right, any other comments? All right, so I think we're at the point of finalizing this track.
What was the final vote on the algebra thing? I'm sorry, I was talking and didn't type it down.
We're keeping it.
We didn't vote on algebra. We just took out composition 1 and 2 and left algebra.
Okay, so
No.
this is the way it looks. Does it look, any other changes to the general academic track?
Just one comment that came to mind. Intro to chemistry doesn't substitute for general chemistry, correct?
No.
Okay. So sometimes they require an intro chemistry before the general chemistry.
So that looks like
Did
we
we,
are complete.
oh, did we decide to keep economics in there? Economics.
No.
No, we voted not to add economics.
So that looks like this field of study is complete with 26. So I think we should take a 10-minute bio break or 5-minute bio break? Five?
Wait, don't we have to vote?
Yeah, I think we have,
We have to vote.
you
Oh, do we
want
have
us
to
to
vote
vote
for
on the
the
final,
Or to accept this as the final general studies track.
Vote for it?
motion to accept this as the general academic track field of study?
Move to accept.
So we have a
We need a second?
second, we need a second?
I'll second.
Second. All right, all those in favor? Unanimous, opposed? All right, motion carries to accept this as the final field of study for general academic track.
Okay, and with that, we'll take a 5-minute bio break.
Okay, for those in the booth and for those of you watching online, we'll be adjourned until approximately 2:40, maybe 2:45. Thanks. I'm impressed. You guys are making excellent progress here, and we're doing really well. So I'll turn it back over to our co-chairs to keep us going on this good momentum. Thanks.
All right, so next we're going to be focusing on the clinical lab science field of study. So if you could turn to that particular field of study.
It's table 5.
And the first recommendation was to add calculus 1 and 2 to clinical lab science. This is P. And we voted 3 to 6 not to do that. So I'll open up the floor for discussion. No discussion? All right, so we'll move forward. So the recommendation is to add calculus 1 and 2 to the clinical science lab track. All those in favor? Oppose? Looks like we have a unanimous decision. The motion fails. All right. Next recommendation is Q, to add 1 or more statistics courses to the clinical lab science track. These courses were not identified in the recommendation. This was a split decision, 5 and 5, yes and no. So I'll open up the floor for discussion.
I feel like if they don't have enough stake in the game to tell you which courses they think you ought to take, and they leave it to us and we decide to just let them take whatever statistics course, how does that help them?
It's an option.
And they're asking for more statistics, 1 or more. I don't know. I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the elementary statistics?
Yeah.
If you look on your table, it's the very first entry.
Oh,
Yeah, if they're not, I mean, if they can't tell us what it is they think is missing, then, and is there any public health people here at all? Yeah, see, that's kind of my point. How are we supposed to know what to put in there?
public health.
This is clinical
That's not
science.
public health, it's lab science.
It's clinical science.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
There are clinical lab people.
Yes.
So if you guys can tell us what we need to put in there, we can consider it.
To me,
want
it
more
makes no
statistics?
sense to add additional statistics.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it
if you add additional statistics, it's usually the higher level statistics. I don't see any clinical laboratorians performing logistic regressions, or it's just not.
All right, any additional comments? All right, so the motion is to add more statistics to the clinical lab science track. All those in favor? Oppose? Looks like unanimous. Motion fails. All right, next. Recommendation is R. Require organic chemistry 2 in the clinical lab science track. We voted 4 to 6 against doing this. I'll open up the floor for discussion. No discussion? All right, we'll call the vote. Let's see, so the motion is to add organic 2 to clinical lab science track. All those in favor? Oppose? Unanimous, motion fails. All right, next one is HH. And this is to remove biology 2 from the clinical lab sciences track. We voted 3 to 6 not to do this.
And
I'll
this
open up
is,
the floor
I
for
think, an
discussion.
error. I think it was under the respiratory care FOS, and I think it should have been under respiratory care. Because later on, it mentions there are no changes recommended for CLS.
Okay. All
But I
right.
mean, we can vote against it.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
All right. So the motion to remove biology for science majors 2 from the clinical lab sciences track. All those in favor? Oppose? Looks like unanimous. Motion fails.
Just one comment, we'll need to bring it back when we talk about respiratory care, because I think that was the intent of the person.
I thought that we gave respiratory care their own, we took it out, didn't we? We moved it.
Yeah, we moved it somewhere, but it's not on our list.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so next, let's see, next recommendation here was to which is to remove the lab hours from chemistry classes in the clinical lab science track. We voted against doing this 2-7. I'll open up the floor for discussion. No discussion? All right. All right, so motion is to remove the lab hours from chemistry classes in the clinical lab sciences track. All those in favor? Oppose? All right, motion fails. It's a unanimous vote. Let's see, so the next 3 recommendations are recommendations that we considered for the general academic track that was also recommended for the clinical lab track. So the first one is FF, which is to create a midterm course for the ACGM. This was this was recommended for the clinical lab sciences track. This was kind of weird because you can't really tell if we really voted for it because it had 3 separate programs that it was being recommended for, so we'll not go into that, but I'll open up the floor for discussion.
I think the same argument holds true with this as well. I mean, it's already being discussed in our coursework.
Yeah. All right, so there's a motion to add a medical term course for ACGM for clinical lab sciences. All in favor? Oppose? All right, motion fails. A unanimous vote. All right, so next recommendation. This is JJ, which was to add physics to clinical lab. Again, we decided not to do this. So, any discussion? We'll call it to vote. So all those in favor of, let's see, well, the motion is to add physics to clinical lab sciences. All those in favor? Oppose? All right. Motion fails. And the last one, KK, this one is to add microbiology to clinical lab science. Open up for a discussion. Yeah.
We had the discussion for the general academic track.
Well,
Is this one a typographical error, having clinical sciences in it too?
Well, we already have it. It's already,
it's already in there.
Yeah, it's already in it,
Okay.
so what did we?
Right, and The way we have it in the field of study, I want to make sure this is correct, we have the option of either microbiology for science majors or for non-science majors in clinical lab science, correct?
It's already in there.
Is a general micro
General
for
micro.
science majors.
Okay, so for clinical labs, okay, then I do have an error in the field of study that, no, I didn't. I have it right. Okay, yeah, for science majors exclusively, right, okay, thanks.
Yeah, the non-science majors option was for the general academic services.
So I guess I have a question on this. So if I am one of those programs who would prefer that my students take microbiology at the upper division level, of course, I need to accept this from a transfer student transferring in, but this doesn't in any way dictate what I recommend as far as a prereq, correct?
I believe you can recommend, but if somebody comes in already with this credit,
Right,
then
I
you
will
have to
accept
accept
it.
it. Yes.
So what are we voting on? I got confused.
So the motion is to add micro to clinical lab sciences.
But it's already there.
Yeah,
made
we're
the
just going to
public comment.
address.
They weren't- they
Yeah,
didn't look carefully.
We're just going to, we'll just address it. So,
Okay. Just general micro, not the micro for non-science majors.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, it needs to be for science majors. Yes.
so do we need to vote on this one or no? Okay, so we move on. So I think that completes clinical lab sciences. All the recommendations for clinical lab science.
That gives us 27 units for that one. So if we're satisfied with that one, then we need a motion to accept it, accept this FOS.
Now, what we have here, just to clarify, to make sure that you have this as you want it, to choose for this life and physical science part of the core, you have a choice, right? They can pick any two of these 4 courses, so it would be okay for them to pick 2 out of sequence. They could pick
Yes.
biology 1 and A&P 2. That's okay with you? Okay, just to clarify. Well, presumably, right. If they, if they need the prerequisite, but in some weird case, if they placed out of it or et cetera, or took it in dual credit.
At UTEP, you can take 2 without 1.
Do we need, for the sake of consistency, since we, in the general academic services field of study, included math 1314 because it's a prerequisite for general chemistry 1, do we need to also include it here? Because general chemistry 1 is included in this FOS as well.
Well, you can take the stats.
Yeah, but the ACGM for general chemistry said math 1314 specifically as a prerequisite. So they'll still have to take it in addition to the stats. So do we need to put it here so that there's no confusion?
Consistency.
So it's not a hidden prerequisite.
So we added for the other one, right? Then we should add it for this one for consistency. You'll take it up to 25 hours.
Is 1 and 2 always a prereq for organic?
Yes, chemistry, general chem 1 and 2, always a prereq for organic. Well, usually students going into this major can test out of algebra. I don't know if that's, yeah. I mean, because for community college, don't they all have to take, I don't know what it's called, some test to place them? Pero? Yeah. TSI.
TSI, yeah.
TSI.
What we got here is The way this is set up, if a student came to my college and decided they wanted to go to clinical lab sciences for a Bachelor of Science degree, and they wanted to go to one of your colleges for that degree, they could actually come out of my college being core complete with just the statistical methods. Come to your college not having taken chemistry yet, and then they'd have to take algebra before they get into the chemistry course, right? So they could go through my college, be 42 hours of gen ed core complete, not having taken chemistry, and now they're going to have to add another 3 hours of algebra at your college in order to get into the chemistry course.
So we have a motion to add,
I don't quite understand Don's point. Because they will have taken chemistry as part of the field of study, right?
They may not do the field of study. They may just do their general academic core at my college.
Right.
Right, and so they do the general academic core at my college. They take this statistics course. They're core complete. They get to the four-year college and want to take general chemistry there because maybe that college has a better reputation in chemistry or whatever, and they want to take their general chemistry there. They're not ready to take it. They now take an algebra course.
Well, in that
They
case,
didn't know they had to take to start with.
Right, they're transferring then field of study incomplete. And the receiving institution can have them, in that case, take whatever courses they determine they need to have at the lower division.
Yeah, and basically what we're saying is that if a student comes to us and we want to tell them this is the field of study, and this is what you need to do in order to be complete in the field of study when you go to the next college, you should take Math 1314. If it's listed here, then we can actually show that progression, just like we did in the General Academic Services one. Right?
If we don't put it in there, then the student comes FOS complete. Then they're stuck, because in order for them to take the chemistry, they would have to have an algebra.
Right. And if that student then takes the algebra course and it's in the field of study and they transfer with that 3 hours, are you prepared to, for those at the universities, to carve 3 hours out of your upper division courses to make room for the major for those 3 hours of college algebra?
They're going to have to one way or the other because the student can't take General Chemistry 1 without it.
Right, but it's a question of, do you want those 3 hours to apply towards the major?
And general chemistry is required in the FOS. In this FOS, it is required. So they can't come to an upper division university without having had the chemistry. So they would have already either tested out of the math or taken the additional math.
Right. We're just thinking that if we offer some guidance for their core and let them know it would be better if they take the algebra versus a stats, then that course can be applied to future courses and fulfill that prereq.
True. But in Don's situation, John's description, I'm just kind of, if I'm hearing you right, I'm just kind of flipping it on its head. Say a student doesn't take algebra for their math requirement, they take elementary statistical methods, which the field of study says is a good idea to take. Then they get to chemistry in their sophomore year, okay? They're told they have to take algebra. So they say, okay, well, now I got to go take algebra. If algebra is in the field of study, then the university is going to be taking 6 hours that they have to apply towards their major, both for elementary stats and algebra, because the student took both of them, and both of them are in the field of study.
Well, and at the same time, you're going to have students that are not going to be field of study complete, but they're going to be core complete. Right, and they'll be core complete because of this elementary statistics course. If they just look at the general pattern and take this course, they'll be core complete. They'll go to the four-year university, and now they want to take the general chemistry course. They've got to take that algebra anyways because it's an ACGM requirement. Right. At some point, they're going to have to take that course,
But
or they're
if
going to
they
have to
do
place out
that,
of
you
it.
don't have to apply that to their degree, to the major.
Right,
Yeah, but
so I'm thinking from the 2+2 program. I only care if they come in with 60 hours. So if they completed those prerequisites within those 60 hours, then I'm fine. So the question now is, within those 60 hours, are they able to complete everything, including the general chem and the organic chem? Now, if it's for the general chem, they're required to take the algebra before that, then it has to come out of the 60 hours. It's not coming out of my hours.
It's 2 points of the field of study in my mind. The first one is to try and minimize the number of credits that students are taking above and beyond what's necessary, right? The second one is to streamline that pathway so the students can get there quicker, right? And so if a student goes all the way through 2 years at a community college, does general core complete, get their 4-year college, wants to take that chemistry course, now they're back where they should have been in the first semester taking algebra, right? Because they weren't told in the field of study that's what they needed to do. See what I mean?
So can we make a motion to replace statistics with the general algebra?
I don't know if we would need to replace it because we did have a recommendation to add more stats. We had a recommendation
took
to
it out.
add calculus.
We
So if
didn't- we
you
didn't
add,
it.
if
We
you
didn't add
the-
any additional,
No.
but
add the algebra, would that increase those 60 hours?
We're
That
not.
Because you're
yeah.
going to be going from 27 to 30.
No, I'm looking at the left column. The left column right now is at 60. That is the core, the general core.
Well,
If we add the algebra, which is not there now, would it go up to
Put it
63?
here, you'd have to put it,
yeah,
Yeah.
It's going to push you over the 60 hours.
Yes, and that's not what we want. We
well,
want
but
to keep it.
you can't do it without that because it's required for general chemistry 2, or general chemistry 1. It is required for that course, so it has to be in that curriculum. If I made a curriculum pattern out of this, I'd have to have algebra in it because it's required for general chemistry 1.
So then we have to
would
take
have to.
something out.
So we would replace these stats with the algebra.
Then
And
you will
that
have no
stays at
stat,
60, no, that stays at 60.
but then you will lose all the stat for the clinical lab science.
as I said before, keep in mind, you don't have to prepare for this situation for every possible student doing this. You just need to consider what is the logical and appropriate starting point for your discipline. And those students who need to get up to preparatory classes to get to the starting point will do so if they have to. If most of your students are going to place out either by exam or having taken this course in high school, then I don't think you need to worry so much about it. If you think that a majority of your students are coming in unprepared with algebra and would be making a fatal error in taking anything else for their math requirement, et cetera, then put it in there. But are we talking about a majority of your students here?
No. Actually, I think we have it solved. Under the general core, right now, it lists mathematics 3 hours. And then in the FOS, we added statistics. If we change the language of mathematics 3 into algebra specifically, then both will be covered. And we'll still stay within 60. Is that all right?
Say that again?
Because right now, if you look at this left column, it says mathematics general. No, we just want to make it very descriptive. We want them to take algebra, minimum algebra. Then both algebra and statistics would be satisfied, and we still stay within the 60.
Okay, so the math,
On the
blue,
yeah, on the blue,
yes.
change that math into something specific.
oh, I see.
Because what Don's example is, if someone else takes it, anything else other than algebra, then that would preclude that individual to take general chemistry because that's a general chemistry requirement. But if we make it very descriptive that you have to take an algebra course, then they can take general chemistry.
So do we need a motion for that?
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry to get back to the micro issue, but I'm kind of stuck on this. I've got a question, I guess, for Alan. So if my program offers microbiology at this junior level, and I have a transfer student come in who is FOS complete, can I still require him or her to take that micro at the junior level?
Well, no, it's up to you if you want to let the lower division course count as the equivalent of your upper division level course. My advice would be yes, because you don't want the student to have to duplicate a lot of course material. If, however, your institution feels very strongly that your upper division course is fundamentally different from the lower division course, then you could still have the student take it if you maybe made that course much more specific, much more narrow, much more specialized. It had a different kind of research or writing requirement. It was a capstone course. There was something to really distinguish it between the two. But typically, if a student takes microbiology at the lower division, and it comes in and you have microbiology at the upper division. This is a painful, sometimes painful choice that institutions around the state are making right now about all kinds of fields of study, where sometimes up to half of the institutions in the state have been offering a course at upper division. And in committees like these, put them at the lower division because they feel students need this as foundational knowledge and prerequisites. And institutions are shuffling to determine what they want to do for transfer. So it's up to your institution, but I would hope that they would allow it to transfer in for the
So
students' benefit.
we specifically have that situation. What we do is we ask the students to petition for grade equivalency. And so the individual has to provide not only the transcript, but the syllabus and the objectives. And then at the same time, we changed our upper level, division level micro course. We call it medical micro. Focuses a lot more on pathology. So they have the general to build the foundation, then to take our advanced, and they usually have no problem.
Okay, good.
So we have a motion to change the math to be more specific and put in algebra. Anyone want a second? You can't second. You
All
made a
right, so,
motion.
Keeping statistics?
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I'll second.
So we have a motion, and it's been seconded to add college algebra to the clinical lab sciences field of study.
Well, it's not add, we're just replacing the term general math to algebra.
Well, now keep in mind that that isn't in the document that goes out for the field of study. We just put the courses. And institutions, I mean, we don't say this is where it falls in the complete core. We don't say this is what we want you to take for your math requirement.
Okay, so it's
The
to, then
field of
to
study
add.
would say college algebra and elementary statistical
Statistics,
methods. And
okay.
students would take them in whatever order they needed to, et cetera.
Okay.
So we have a motion to add college algebra to the clinical lab sciences field of study. It's been
And it was
motion and seconded. All those in favor? Looks like unanimous vote. Oppose? All right, motion carries. All right, so next we're moving, so we need to.
I'm so sorry, but for stats, I don't think any hours are assigned for stats on our FOS.
Right. It's a 3-hour course, right?
Yes.
Yikes.
And the math next to college algebra needs to be changed to 1314 from 1342.
I'll fill these in later, but yeah. Am I missing anything here? I guess the problem are all these 4-hour courses. We have 8 semester credit hours here where there should be 6. So that's 2 extra courses there. Oh, wait a minute, genetics.
These are all with lab. That 8 hours includes the labs,
That's right.
so you can't really take that away.
Yeah, it's all these extra lab hours that are the problem.
And I don't see how you could do clinical laboratory science without the labs.
Right. Do you want to consider taking a course off so that the whole package can be under 63? Because as it is, that's okay. I mean, you can leave it like this. But it would fall under that loophole in the law that says that a student can graduate with an associate degree with either a complete field of study or the complete core, but they don't always have to have both, if the field of study is so large that they couldn't plausibly do both. Now, keep in mind, it might not be a problem because I would dare say half or more of your students are going to come in without needing to take college algebra. They either placed out of it or took it in high school. But if they didn't, they're not going to be able to do both the core and the field of study in 60 hours.
Well, and that leads us right back to where we were in the beginning. I mean, do we just leave college algebra off because they're going to have to take it? And that way the hours are not assigned to the FOS? That means that some students are going to end up taking the wrong course and adding hours.
Our only other option then is to take something else off.
I would probably.
And I don't really
would
see how we
favor
can
moving
take
this
off any of the other lab courses.
Back to my original, replace statistics with algebra.
I agree. I agree. Just take algebra off completely.
Oh, so now we're gonna have to another motion?
Oh, I don't think we can do that. No.
I think that if you look at the numbers, the number of students coming in doing clinical laboratory sciences, most of them would either have already had college algebra or have tested out of it. So you will have a few who may have to take it before they can get into chemistry, but the number of those is going to be very, very small.
Well, the reality is that students have to take more than 60 hours at community colleges all the time. There are some students who come in needing both Composition 1, Composition 2, college algebra. They may even need developmental ed courses to be able to take college algebra. You know, so some students just can't get it all done in 60 hours. They're taking more than that. But 60 hours is what they have to transfer in, or not all the credits that they take necessarily, you know, apply towards the degree program. But not all students are coming in equally prepared. It's always been the reality.
Well,
So in other words, fields of study don't really always need to compensate for the worst case scenario every time. They need to accommodate the most average case scenario or even the best case scenario. Here's where students should be coming in. And if they're not, well, then we'll help them out to get to the starting point.
Yeah, in that case, I agree with that statement. I mean, I'm thinking, because I was thinking of the worst case scenario. International student had to take ESL, and then before they take English Composition 1 and 2, they have to take Intro to Chemistry before they take chemistry, and then have to take algebra on top of that before they take chemistry. So you're right, a small minority population may have to end up taking an extra 12 hours just so they can become qualified to start taking these courses.
developmental ed is always an exception, right? It's never counted in the credit hours for a credential. If I'm going to create a credential using the field of study, and I'm going to create an Associate of Science degree for this field of study, I can't do it without physically listing college algebra in that field, in that curriculum pattern. I cannot do it. I have to include that course because it's a prerequisite for General Chemistry 1. It has to be there. There's no exception, right? If I take this pattern that we have right here and I create an Associate of Science for, we'll call it preclinical lab, I have to put college algebra in that pattern in those 60 hours because it's a prerequisite for General Chemistry. I don't have any choice.
When you do that, if a student places out of college algebra by exam, do you give them 3 semester credit hours toward the degree, or do they just hop over that and begin at another point?
I'm sorry, I was having a hard time hearing you. Can you say it again?
If a student, in your institution, if a student places out of college algebra by exam on the SAT or something, do you give them 3 semester credit hours? Okay,
Yeah,
same thing
they get
for
credit for that.
general-
It goes
for
on their
comp-
transcript.
If they placed out of Comp 1 in an AP exam or something like that and
It's
placed out of Comp
transcripted.
2,
Yeah,
do they get 6 semester credit hours?
it's transcripted, yeah. And it has to be in the curriculum pattern. And that's not an L Central rule, that's a THECB rule. That if you have a prerequisite for a course listed in the ACGM, that course has to be in the curriculum pattern. Right? That's not my colleagues, that's the state.
So quick question. In the blue, what's component area option? There's 6 hours there. What is a component area option?
Well, yeah.
We take
that's-
3 hours out
that's-
of there, and then we're back down to 60.
That's up to each institution to determine what they want to put in their core curriculum.
Is that a
It's sort of
number,
wild
is that number
card.
set at 6, or can we mandatory
set at
call it
6,
3?
yeah.
It is set at 6.
Right. if an institution can always put a field of study course into their component area option, I don't think we can force them to do that. But if the field of study is over 60 semester credit hours, if I were your institution, I would take one of the 3-hour courses and put it in my component area option and let that course double dip towards the field of study in the
Right.
core.
So for the sake of argument, since algebra has to be listed, we can list the algebra and then put a recommendation for the component area option for statistics. Because every CLS program out there, we can recommend that to add that in there anyway.
Well, we don't have a way, we decided not to make recommendations in fields of study. We either do it or we don't, and there's so many exceptions, and we don't want to create ambiguity to institutions of what the coordinating board is saying they must do. So I think we would let institutions come to that decision on their own, that this is a course that can fit in the component area option. And I don't know if that happens on a case-by-case, student-by-student basis, or if an institution has to determine in advance what courses are eligible for their component area option. I hate to speak for each institution across the state of exactly how they handle.
No, but I mean that right now there's, 13 CLS program in Texas? It's easier to ask the 13 CLS programs to ask their institution to add that in there than it is for,
But that's not all the CLS. You know, there are universities that offer a CLS degree that are not.
right, okay, that's true. That's
They're
not
not
accredited.
accredited programs. They work with a hospital-based program. So,
But what I'm saying is which one is a easier, because the algebra has to be in there for all university students who wants to major in CLS.
Well, I was under the understanding that if you can take the classes in high school and or test out, you don't have to list it, and it's not really considered a hidden prerequisite, which is the algebra.
Yeah, that's not always true. It depends on the institution, because as we were speaking earlier, if a student comes to us and they place out of algebra, it's transcripted as a course they've actually done. It's counted in their 60-hour credits.
But it doesn't have to transfer over.
Well, I agree, but
So
if,
if they've taken credit for the algebra, they can get into general chemistry.
and no, because the ACGM requires, they have, yeah, if they tested out of it, they can at the four-year university, yes. But that's dicey ground, it really is.
It just seems to me that we don't have that many options. Either we take out statistics and hope that the university will add it or recommend that as part of the component area option. That's about the only option we have, really.
Yeah.
I agree. I really don't see any other option at this point. I just don't know how probable that action really is a reality. Like Dave pointed out, we have a lot of programs in the state that are not accredited.
So we have to decide, are we going to take out algebra from our list, take it off of our list with the intent that people are testing out, or they will have to take it as remediation, so it's not listed on there, or we have to take out statistics. Those are our options.
Or keep it at over 63 hours and be aware that students will either be transferring field of study complete or core incomplete if they don't have college algebra squared away.
This is going back out for public comment, so if we leave it in, we'll get comments that, gee, we can't have this.
Here's another option, which I'll just throw out there because it's just the kind of wild rabbit out of a hat option. Does this committee feel like you should or could create the clinical lab science? Does this need a separate field of study committee just for clinical lab science?
I think we have several individuals here that, yeah, Yeah, so I think we could, I feel comfortable in the committee being able to address it.
For those of you at representing the universities here, do your programs in clinical lab science have these courses as your undergraduate lower division requirements? Is this what you're
Yeah.
already doing, in other
Except
words?
for UTEP doesn't require the statistics, but if you have the statistics, we'll substitute.
I think we take out the statistics then. I mean, that's,
We have,
yeah.
Okay.
So,
we
Okay,
require.
that's a point, right. If,
that-
okay. Is statistics often offered at the upper division?
mhm.
It's both,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
I think we pull out the statistics. So we could take a motion on pulling out the statistics, and I think we'd be
Oh.
good to go. Yeah. So, and
I'll go back to my original motion, which was to take statistics out and replace it with the algebra.
well, we already added the algebra. So, all right.
Take the statistics out.
So the motion is to take out the statistics. All those in favor? Oppose? We have one opposed, 9 in favor. Motion carries to take out the statistics in the clinical lab science field of study. And then I think all we need to do now is then to vote on the final field of study for clinical lab science.
We're at a total of 27 units.
Move to approve?
We need a motion for this.
Yeah,
right?
we need a motion.
And you.
I move to approve the field of study.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the clinical lab science field of study. You have a second? Second, Peter, second. All those in favor? Oppose? All right, unanimous decision, motion carries. All right, so our next track is the informatics and health information management track.
This one is table 4.
So I'll start off the first recommendation, which is FF, was to add medical terminology to the informatics and health information management track. This was something that we considered with the 2 previous tracks. So I will open up the floor for discussion. Any discussion? No discussion? All right, so motion to add a medical terminology course to the informatics and health information management track. All those in favor? Oppose? All right, unanimous decision, oppose. All right, so motion fails. Let's see, next we have E, which is add management, accounting, or business courses to the informatics and health information management track. No courses were specified. We did vote 7-1 to do this. I'll open up the floor for discussion.
I think this goes back to the discussion we had earlier. If they didn't recommend courses, how do we know what courses to add? Is there informatics people here? HIM people? No. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't feel comfortable voting to add some management course to this and not know what it is they're looking for.
Do we not have the comments? Did they not suggest any comments?
They did not suggest any courses. They just, in general, just. And this was one instance.
I mean, without being familiar with the discipline, how do you determine what course is appropriate to the outcomes of the discipline? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be great with adding a course if they told us what it was. but I don't know what it is, and I'm certainly not going to make that decision for them.
We've been adding a program of study for health informatics, and it doesn't have any business or management classes in it. It is mostly nursing-based and computer-based, data management. So it doesn't have business. So I don't know what to add either. I'm with Donna. I would have no idea what business course to add.
No, we don't know.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like we're ready. So we have a motion to add management, accounting, and business courses to the informatics and health information management track. All those in favor? Oppose? Looks like unanimous. Motion fails. Let's see, next is V, which is delete the lab hours for AMP 1 and 2 from the informatics and health information management track.
Which letter was this?
V as in Victor.
The vote on this one was 5-2.
5-2 for eliminating the lab hours for AMP 1 and 2. I'll open up the floor for a discussion.
Are there options for non-science majors, for anatomy and physiology?
Yeah, there actually are, and there are options for a single semester course as well. I think their point is that if you're doing health information, do you really need any A&P at all?
I kind of agree with no need for AMP, but I'm wondering why isn't biology included in this? Just some general biology, although that would be core. But I think some general biology would be necessary, be a good foundation.
And then the danger here is that there's only one college that actually commented here. Is that representative of health information management in general? Or is that representative of their curriculum?
I think we had a response from Texas State. Informatics.
We do, but it's not in reference to the sciences. Yeah.
So that would imply to me that Texas State was okay with this because they looked at these and didn't comment on this one. But that's still not a big recommendation.
I think it's strange, informatics and information doesn't have any computer stuff in here.
There's like a business computer applications course in there.
One class.
All right, so the motion is to delete the lab hours from AMP 1 and 2 from the health informatics track. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in favor, oppose? 2, 3, oppose? And then 1 abstain. 1 abstain. So motion carries to delete the lab hours for AMP 1 and 2 from the health informatics track.
Now, in a situation like that, where an institution only offers the 4-hour version, and that sometimes happens, then the student would just graduate with 1 extra semester credit hour. Well, in this case, 2.
Yeah, correct, because my institution offers, you can't take it without the lab, so, yeah. All right.
Currently, their core is only 4.
Yeah. All right, so the next one is to delete, it says W, which is to delete general psychology from the informatics and health information management track. It was a split vote. Open up the floor for discussion.
Part of their core, they have social and behavioral science.
They do. Mm-hmm.
But they could take economics for this requirement, as we've discussed before,
Or intro to sociology.
or intro to sociology.
Right.
And they are recommending adding economics. We'll get to that further later on, but they are recommending to add economics to this track.
How would psychology?
Speaking from somebody not in that field, I would think that, psychology helps you work with other people and understand different personalities. And most of the people who do pursue this as a career will be working with others, either on the phone or via computer or face-to-face. So I think an introduction to psychology would just help them improve their ability to work well with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So we're going to call this the vote. So motion is to delete general psychology from the health informatics track. All those in favor? Oppose?
I actually have a question about that. Sorry, I didn't see it before, because down below on our table, we have choose one of the following: general psychology or personal community health. So one of our next votes is to remove personal community health. So I don't know if we can do all of that at once, or if we have to go step by step.
Yeah, we'll have to address it separately.
Okay.
We'll
Okay,
address it
thank you.
separately. So all those in favor to delete psychology from the health information management track? Oppose? So unanimous vote. Motion fails. Let's see, next is X, which is to delete personal community health from the informatics and health information management track. We voted to do this 6-3. I'll open up the floor for discussion. No discussion? All right. Motion is to delete personal community health from informatics and health information management track. All those in favor? One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did you? X. Oh, okay. So 9 in favor, oppose, abstain, 1. All right. So motion carries to delete personal and community health from the health information management track. The next one is Y, which is to delete business computer applications from the health information management track. We voted not to do this, 3-5. Open up the floor for discussion. Any discussion? No discussion. All right, motion to delete the business computer applications from the health information management track. All those in favor? Oppose? Looks like unanimous. So motion fails. Let's see, next we're on PP, which is add economics to the informatics and health information management track. This was a split decision. Open up the floor for comments.
It seems logical that economics would actually benefit these people if they're working with numbers.
I mean, to me, statistics is more applicable for the numbers.
And they're already taking that.
Yeah.
Any other comments? All right, so the motion is to add economics to the informatics and health information management track. All those in favor? Oppose? Looks like unanimous. So motion fails. And let's see, the last one is QQ, which is require either general psychology or personal community health. We just recently voted to delete the community health. So I'll open up the floor for discussion. No.
I think it's already resolved.
Yeah, okay. So, the motion is to require either general psychology or personal health in the informatics and health information management track. All those in favor? We deleted it.
Oh, but we took personal community health out.
Yeah, general psychology in, but we took out personal.
Well,
No.
yeah, what we're voting on is whether or not we're going to allow them to substitute personal community health for general psychology, which we've already required. So
No, we
then,
took,
if we do this, then it changes what we required earlier.
All right, so all those in favor? Oppose? All right, motion fails. All right, and I think that completes our informatics and health information management field of study.
And that gives us 15 units. So we'll need a motion to approve this field of study.
I'll second.
This motion has been forwarded and approved has been seconded to approve this field of study.
So I think we didn't do a vote, did we? Did we just vote?
Haven't voted yet.
Okay, so all those in favor? Oppose? Unanimous decision. Informatics and health information management field of study is complete. So we have one final field of study to get through, which is probably the one that had the most comments, which is the public health field of study. So if you could turn to that one.
This one is Table 3.
All right, so the first one is B, remove general psychology from the public health track. We voted against this 3-6. Open up the floor for recommendation, for discussion.
Clearly, this is the one that generated the most discussion, comments, and probably it's the one that we are least equipped to deal with. I would entertain the idea that we convene. Oh, we have one. I'm wondering if we shouldn't consider a subcommittee for public health.
Do we want to try to go through the recommendations and see what we can, or do we not?
I did visit with our program and received their feedback before arriving here. I don't know if anyone else had that opportunity.
Yes, I did also. The only thing was, please do not add research methods in public health at the lower division level.
Yes.
Everything else is okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we do have some basis of a field of study. I mean, I think we could go through the comments and see, and I don't know if after we go through the comments, if we feel like there's maybe a need, we could make that recommendation, but it would be good. I think it would, we do have something here. And so we may want to try to go through some of the comments and see where we're at after we go through the comments. If everybody is okay with that.
We're already here anyway, so.
All right, so the first one's deleting the psychology for public health. We voted against doing that 3-6. Any discussion? No discussion? All right, so recommendation to remove general psychology from the public health field of study. All those in favor? Oppose? All right, okay, 9 oppose, abstain, 1 abstain. All right, motion fails. Next one was to remove, this is C, which is to remove nutrition and diet therapy from the public health track. We voted to do this 5-4. Any discussion?
So I have a little bit of discussion on this one. In public health, most of the problems stem from nutrition concerns. And I know from the comments that their concerns were that students are required to take introductory biology, fundamentals of chemistry, and psychology. If I were in charge of the world, I would make everybody take nutrition. So everybody knows my bias. However, if I were trying to decide with the number of credits whether chemistry was more important from a public health perspective than nutrition, I would opt for nutrition, even setting aside my personal bias as a nutritionist, because so many of our public health concerns stem from nutrition. So I believe that they need to have that grounding.
But how many institutions offer nutrition at the higher level? So like at UTEP, they make them take it, but it's at the junior level.
If you don't have introductory nutrition, you are not very well prepared to take upper division nutrition. You just don't have the basic principles. It's like trying to take calculus without having basic math. When I started at UT Tyler, they did not have a nutrition faculty member, and they had 3 nutrition classes, all of which were upper division. They had such a high failure rate in those classes that their majors were not graduating because they were taking sports nutrition with no beginning nutrition. They were taking theory and clinical aspects of weight management with no beginning nutrition. And so we changed that program to require they would have to take lower division nutrition in order to take those upper division nutrition classes. So I think that students are just very ill-prepared.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, were there any comments regarding chemistry in the public health?
Yes,
Let's see.
that number was E. Oh, and it was the number 4. Texas A&M talked about students are required to, so for public health, they gave their lower division requirements that they're required to take biology, chemistry, and psychology. The remaining 17 semester credit hours of the proposed FOS do not align with our BS-PH degree plan and includes courses that Texas A&M does not require. Lower division requirements that students completing the FOS would be missing from our degree plan include students are required to take Introduction to Biology. For the public health track, they're also required to take Biology 1407. And they also wanted composition and rhetoric to be added to that, and also public speaking and mathematics for business and health and social sciences, as well as calculus for business. So those were all comments from Texas A&M.
So I don't see anything with regard to chemistry.
Well, they have it in their
Yeah.
curriculum. But what I'm looking at is I count at least 8 universities on here that commented in the public health, track, and none of them recommended removing chemistry. And so if we're going to make this chemistry versus,
And I'm not suggesting that we should make chemistry versus nutrition. I'm just giving my bias.
yeah, and
So I'm not
I'm
telling us
just
what to
saying
do.
that this just goes back to my place again. I don't know.
Right.
I just don't know.
Well, and I think one of the roles of these professionals is to assess data. And many times that data involving health-related data does involve chemistry and some elements of A&P, for instance. So that's where I think they all see this link of health services.
And basically what I'm saying is I don't know enough about public health to be of any value in this discussion. That's really what I'm saying.
So those of you who are more familiar with public health, what is it that public health people do? They create policy and procedures for governmental entities to make recommendations about public health.
Well, it's a social science. It's not a hard clinical science. And so we study populations, we study behaviors
In relation to health.
in relation to health, yeah, obviously.
But to me, chemistry 1 is inorganic chemistry. How does that, I mean, I could say you take biochemistry, right? If you want to look at the electrolytes, public health, how it influences that, but inorganic chemistry, where does that, it just doesn't help.
You have
So,
to have
Rhonda,
it to get to
Well,
biochem.
that's the problem, right, is because the sequence
you
of
have a
studies-
public health degree, right?
The School of Public Health does, yeah.
I mean, you yourself?
No, it's not my
Okay.
degree.
Because I'm wondering is chemistry required in your School of Public Health degree then,
Yes.
Yes.
right? I don't know why it would be. It's a social science, right? Again, I'm not sure. I'm just going to say for myself, I am not qualified to make that decision.
Again, most of public health, per se, we say public health is really offered at the master's level, but public health, just general public health, is different.
Mm-hmm.
And there are actually some Bachelor of Science degree public health now, and now there are even a few associate degree public health. But I keep saying chemistry. I don't want to fixate on chemistry because even the discussion about nutrition, I don't know. All right, that's really what I'm trying to get at. I don't know. So
Also, as you can see here from the list, these are the programs in Texas in the CIP code for public health. And even within this public health CIP code, there's a pretty wide range of disciplines in here: environmental health, music therapy, and rehabilitation science. Now, music therapy and environmental health seem to be like way apart from each other to my uneducated perspective. So there's quite a bit of variety in here. But in terms of public health general, there's just these programs here, and it's a pretty wide disparity here because it's really UT San Antonio and Sam Houston State and UT Austin are producing the greatest number of graduates in these programs by a long shot, more than the other schools combined.
Do we have comments from UT San Antonio? Or
Yeah,
from-
so UT San Antonio is one of the ones that recommended to remove the nutrition.
I mean, we could always take a minute and look up their course requirements in their catalog and see what it is they actually require at the lower division for public health. We could do the same thing for Sam Houston State, too. And
They
see
also
where they
wanted
are on
general
that.
psychology removed. So I have those notes now. So they wanted psychology removed, nutrition removed, community health removed.
But just to be clear, UT San Antonio was the only university that suggested general psychology. But
Right.
there was multiple universities
said-
that suggested nutrition and diet therapy and personal community health be deleted.
Yeah, there were several institutions that made that recommendation.
Yeah, the more we discuss, the more I'm inclined to agree with Dawn that we need a subcommittee with more experts to really talk about this. Because on the one hand, I'm thinking, maybe it's because what you said, they don't know what they don't know about the importance of general nutrition. At the same time, I could see the benefit of taking the basic general chemistry, at least learning about the elements that use it to applicable to the basic dietary course.
Chemistry is crucial for nutrition.
Right, so
But we do have 3 institutions that said delete, right? I mean,
So that's
we do
why-
have some data.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I will actually abstain because I know my bias, so I'm not going to say yes or no.
One thing, we spent a lot of time last time in this one and then the general because we feel that we're not qualified to do this. So there is a reason. My memory is not that great, so I don't remember every single reason why we chose this, but we chose them. We talked about it. So there was a discussion. We didn't just say, oh, let's just do this. We said, because it makes sense. At the time, it made sense, so, but I don't remember why.
Again, I think right now here's what's before us. I mean, we have comments from 3 institutions that say delete it. So, I mean, we can.
The reason they said from UTEP to delete it because they didn't require it.
We also have comments here from 8 universities on public health, and 5 of them did not say remove it.
True.
You know,
Call a vote and see what happens.
Well, we've made so many changes to the other tracks now that this is going to go back out for another 30-day public comment.
Correct.
And there's some advantage to that. And I know it's a lot more work for everybody. But the first field of study went out during the summer when many faculty were gone and when departments weren't available to have department meetings to discuss this as a department. I thought we got it good. Obviously, we got 40 some odd comments. I mean, we got some substantive feedback, which is why we went ahead with it. But if we send it out a second round, I think we'll get even more comments from institutions that we didn't hear from this time, including some of the heavy hitters like Sam Houston State. Also, it kind of bothers me that we didn't get any public comments from any colleges. And I would like to have that on the record as well when we fully consider things, that we get maybe a little more feedback from the colleges. And sending these out in the summer really hurts the colleges in particular. So we'll get more feedback. I mean, we're not going to be finished even when we're finished today because we're going to have a second round of voting online to see where we stand if we want to make any changes based on any new public comments we receive. I don't know if we'll have to come back face to face. We might if you decide to make lots of changes or if we decide to add new courses or play around with the number of semester credit hours. That should probably go on the record. But if they're just some minor tweaks, then perhaps we can do those on the authority of our co-chairs and not come back. So we'll have to see. But
And
we're going to
certainly
get more feedback.
Absolutely.
Some of these, because we have gone over them under other topics, for example, personal and community health. The things that we've already sort of voted and decided or discussed, I think those are pretty straightforward to say, okay, we'll change those things and leave the things that we are uncertain about and get some public comment back and go from there.
So the motion is to remove nutrition and diet therapy from the public health track. All those in favor?
Favor, I'm sorry.
One, two, yeah, to remove it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, oppose. We have 2 oppose and abstain. We have 2, how many? Hold on, somebody's voting more than once here.
Get one,
Okay,
wait,
abstain. We have 1, 2, and 3.
3.
So motion carries.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe not?
If we need a majority plus 1 for something to carry, do we not?
Okay.
So if it's 5 to nothing, I mean 5 to not 5 yes to 5 not yes, then I would say the motion fails.
Okay. Motion fails.
Unless those
yeah.
3 who abstained want to reconsider, and let's have some more discussion and see if we can get the fence sitters to.
In good conscience, I can't vote to remove it, so
I think if we can come back to that, but I want to build some momentum so we can kind of get through some of these comments and see if we're able to tackle this. All right, so next is D, which is to remove personal community health from the public health track. 3 institutions recommended this. We had a vote of 5 to 3 to do this. Open up the floor for discussion. Any discussion? No discussion? All right, well, so motion to remove personal community health from the public health track. All those in favor? 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. Oppose? 1 oppose. And abstain? 3.
I'm sorry, I got behind. What was the motion?
To remove personal community health from the public health track.
And the votes
It was
were to.
6. Was it 6?
6, 4, 6 to 1, 3 abstain.
And 3 abstain. 6, 1, and 3. All right, next is F, add biology for science majors 2 to the public health track.
Wouldn't they already need biology
We-
too if they have A&P requirement?
We voted 7 to 1 to do this. Not necessarily. Not necessarily, yeah.
Yeah, biology 2 is not required for A&P. Biology 1 is required for A&P, but not 2. Yeah, but through the ACGM, it's only biology 1 is the only requirement, prerequisite for A&P 1 and 2.
and one of the items on our list, L, is to remove A&P from
1
the
and
public
2.
health track.
Yeah.
So if we remove A&P, that sort of resolves the remove biology issue.
I'm a little confused because it already says that it's already in there. It says choose one of the following: biology for science majors, lecture, lab. So what's in there twice? See that?
No,
What's
that's a, they either offer it where it's kind of, I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So I don't know why it's in there twice.
Some institutions offer it as 1406, some offer it, they separate the lecture and lab.
See, it's like biology for science majors.
That's biology 2. Biology 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're recommending to add biology 2 for science majors. It's what the recommendation is.
I understand, yeah. Okay, yeah. Add biology.
Again, we decided 7 to 1 to do that.
Okay.
We voted 7 to 1 to do it. Any comment? No comment?
I have 2. Okay.
All right, so recommendation is to add biology for science majors 2 to the public health track. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anybody else? No? Oppose? 1, 2, oppose? 3 oppose? 4 oppose, okay. All right, and abstain? We have 1 abstain. So did not pass. All right, next, add composition and rhetoric English 1302 to the public health track. We voted, this is G, that we voted 8-1 to do this.
Isn't this already part of core?
Yeah,
So I don't think we need to add it in there.
If we stay consistent, then we wouldn't add it in.
correct.
I'm sorry.
If we stay consistent, then we would not add it in.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Under the core, it says communication, so someone could
I think later on there's a recommendation to add to add speech as a option too. So that's a later recommendation. So
And we're at 58 credits. So
we're at what?
actually consider adding all these courses, it's going to end up way over six.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other discussion? So the recommendation is to add the composition and rhetoric 1302 to the public health track. All those in favor? Oppose? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Abstain? 1. All right, motion carries. All right, so the next one is H, which is add a choice of public speaking or technical business writing to the public health track. We voted 8-1 to do this. Any discussion?
My only comment would be these are not the same thing, and I'm not sure how technical and business writing helps individuals communicate public verbally. As a public health person, it seems to me that like sometimes you have to get information out to people verbally, but other than that, I don't have a dog in this fight.
Yeah. All right, so recommendation to add public speaking or technical business writing to the public health track. All those in favor? Oppose? Oh, hold on. One in favor? One in favor, okay. Oppose? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oppose. Abstain? 2, all right. I thought you, oh, okay. Okay. So, okay, y'all confusing me on the votes here. All right. So we had what, 5 that approved, 5 in favor? Or 5? 1 in favor, 5 oppose,
I thought it was
I
6
thought it was
opposed.
6 oppose, okay.
Oppose.
6 oppose and 3
3
abstain,
abstain.
okay. All right, so next is I, which is add mathematics for business and social sciences to the public health track. We voted 5-3 to do that. Discussion? All right, motion to add business mathematics for business and social sciences to the public health track. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Oppose, abstain. All right. The motion carries to add the business mathematics. Let's see. J is the next one. Add calculus for business and social sciences to the public health track. We voted not 2, 3 to 4. Any discussion?
What was the rationale for that? Do we have a rationale for?
It's a requirement on the degree plan. And there's no substitutions allowed. It's a requirement. Both of those math are requirements on all of our health and public health degree plans.
And how often, at a bachelor's level, in public health, would someone use calculus? Can you give me an example?
Not in public health, because I'm not a public health person. I mean, anytime they do like a needs assessment of a population, they're going to have numbers that they need to do.
And that's why we
math
have
with.
advanced statistics.
Yeah, when that's statistics, but
But that doesn't require calculus. It's not a prerequisite as far as I know for taking statistics. I've never had calculus, and I actually have a graduate minor in statistics and epidemiology, and I've never taken calculus. So I'm trying to understand why they would want to have calculus as a
the only thing
requirement.
I can think of is that it's a requirement on the degree plan.
Right, somebody wanted it.
Yeah, somebody wanted it there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the why. I always like to know the
Yeah.
why.
I mean, it's a requirement on the degree plans that I'm in charge of, on all of our health and kinesiology degree plans.
So why? So for health and kinesiology, for example?
Good question.
Because we don't require it. We don't require calculus in any of our health or kinesiology degrees.
Not to my knowledge.
I think it might be the nature of your university. It's an engineering, it's a
That might
land
be
grant
it.
university.
Okay.
And, you know, tradition of, that's just expected of students that go to your university. Whereas other universities that maybe it's more community public health, you know, it's not, doesn't have the same kind of background.
Yeah,
for
math
students.
141, math 142, those are 13, 24, and 25 are required on just about, almost every student on campus has to take those courses.
Right.
So these are upper division.
No, they're
To be
100
clear.
level courses.
Oh, they're 100 level? Okay. So your calculus is 100 level?
Interesting.
These are specifically business and social sciences calculus too. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
It's not general calc, yeah.
When you get that specific in a degree plan, like public health, somebody probably had a reason for it, honestly. Otherwise, it would have just said calculus. So somebody probably had a reason for it. And again, it goes back to that, I don't know.
All right, let's call this the vote. So the motion is to add calculus for business and social sciences to the public health track. All those in favor? 1, oppose? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oppose, abstain? 2. Okay, motion fails. Let's see, the next one we have here is K, remove elementary statistical methods from the public health track. Let's see, we voted against this 2 to 6. Open up the floor for any discussion. Any particular, well, I guess I know why they don't want statistics, because they have 3 other math classes, right?
Speaking from other programs, I know that elementary statistics is required for ours.
Yeah.
Because it is basic statistics.
It is in
And
ours as well.
that's necessary for
Yeah.
this field of study.
Yeah. All right, so the vote is to remove, the motion is to remove elementary statistics from the public health track. All those in favor?
Wait.
Oh,
Is elementary statistical methods a prerequisite for upper division courses in public health, like advanced statistics?
I would think so. I don't know.
I know our students can take 300 level stat without taking 200 level stat.
Okay.
So.
All right, so all those in favor of removing elementary statistics from the public health track? We have 1. Oppose? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 oppose and abstain. 1. All right, so next we have L, which is remove AMP 1 and 2 from the public health track. We voted 7-2 to do this. So, any discussion?
Do we know why they wanted to remove it?
Well,
Public health, I think they,
I'm thinking they're wanting them to take biologies 1 and 2, is what it looks like. Yeah, I can understand that too. Yeah, I don't think for public health you would need AMP 1 and 2. That's my thought.
But again, you're not studying human body and public health. You're studying populations and behaviors. So it's a little different.
But this kind of goes back to F. And we did deny the proposal to add biology for science majors. Biology 2, right, correct. But this is, in a sense, they want biology 1 and 2
Correct.
instead of A and P.
Yeah, and I wanted to go back and let's revisit F, because I think we're kind of on the border of being able to, but I think there were a few holdouts. So I was going to suggest we come back to that one. Any other discussion? All right, so motion to remove AMP 1 and 2 from the public health track. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oppose? Abstain? 1. All right, motion carries. All right, so next is M, which is add biology 1 for science majors to the public health track. We voted unanimously 10-0 to do this. So
This is already.
is it already on this?
Yeah,
They
it's already
say,
on,
they
biology for
said
majors.
biology 1, but their numbers reflect biology 2, so I think there's a little bit of confusion there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, they have the same number.
Yeah, the
1407,
same number.
1407.
So they were probably referring to biology too, you think? Well, so this is our opportunity to address F again. Well, unless you have any comments, Alan?
Well, here's the original comment. They recommend adding the following course: Introduction to Biology 2, equivalent for Biology for Science Majors 1. Confusing. So did I mistype there? Should that be? Well,
That should be biology 2.
equivalent for Biology Science Majors 1.
Yeah.
What they want to add. So I guess you could say they wanted to add Introductory Biology 2. But is this from UT Austin?
Yeah, they're from two different schools, too.
Yeah,
so-
because their course numbering at UT Austin is so different from everybody else's. Biology 112. Peter, do you know if this is a UT thing? No, this is from Texas A&M. Rhonda, do you know what's going on with that?
I think it's a typo. 1406 is biology 1, and 1407 is biology 2. And I think they want them both on there.
Biology 1 and Biology 2.
So
Okay.
111 and 112 is what it comes in at A&M.
Okay, so shall we then consider the motion to be add Biology 2 for science majors?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, I apologize for that error then.
All right, so motion to add Biology 2 for science majors to the public health track. All those in favor?
But that's the same as F.
F, so will it,
Are we revoting?
F and
Yeah,
M are
so
now,
basically, yeah, so we're basically, we're
Okay, we're
revoting.
revoting.
Correct. So,
So it was all in favor?
yeah. So, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oppose? Abstain? 2. All right, so motion carries.
Does this not create a problem for us? Where in F, we failed it, and then in this one, we passed it?
Because there were some things in between
Yeah.
that we changed, so.
Okay, is this a
Yeah,
3-hour
because
course?
They
Or
eliminated the AMP 1 and 2.
do you want the 3-hour or the 4-hour version of Biology for science majors?
4.
4? And this biology that we already have, Biology 1, that is Biology for science majors already, right? And should that be, that's 4 hours?
Yes, 4, yeah. All right, so we're almost done. 5 more to go here. So first, the next one up is S, which is require calculus in the public health track. Oh, yeah.
We do that?
Well, I think the other calculus was
Business.
it was a
It was for business.
it was a business and social sciences calculus. So this one just says it's just general calculus. So this is S. This is just required calculus for public health track. We voted 3 to 7 not to add the calculus. Any discussion? No discussion? All right, so so motion is to add a calculus to the public health track. All those in favor? Have 1. Oppose? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 oppose. And abstain? 1. So motion fails.
Can I get some feedback as to why some of y'all are voting no for calculus?
You don't need calculus. They would need
But
more
there's two different
statistics.
universities now that are flagship
Two-
institutions.
2 out of how many in the
6.
state? So, yeah,
6.
but what you're talking about is now requiring every single university to require calculus for public health at a bachelor's level.
So I guess, would you accept general calculus for your business and social science calculus?
So I know with the A&M one, it just lists several calculus courses. There's probably a dozen listed here that are all calculus courses, not specific for the business.
I just don't
calculus.
understand what the
Don't need
rationale is to have calculus. If 2 are saying no, how many do we have that don't require calculus? And so we're going to sway everyone to require calculus
It's-
because 2 say yes?
But it's not everyone. It's 6 institutions that have this program, and only for those transfer students that want to go into those 6 programs. For the public health general, he listed about 6 of them up there.
So did you say
And
yes,
so-
you would substitute general calculus for your business and social sciences calculus?
Yeah, so I know for our degree, we do accept 1324 and 1325. That's what we have on the transfer course sheets. But then we also will substitute probably 4 or 5 other calculus math courses for those courses. And so maybe we don't just specify, we just put, like y'all put with college algebra, we put college calculus. Because we don't take college algebra on any of the degree plans that I am affiliated with. Just my 2 cents.
So, no, that's very, that's very well taken. Here's another example, again, of why we're not qualified to have this discussion.
Well, I'm trying to understand why calculus for public health. I don't understand the rationale. So if I understood the rationale, I'd probably say, sure, it
Oh,
should
yeah,
have
but-
it.
And
But it
that's
doesn't
to
make
your
sense.
point, and to your point, Don, is maybe we're not the right people because, again,
We don't
I
know how to offer the
know the
rationale.
rationale why calculus is on there, but it is. It's the requirement for the degree, and maybe it goes back to the institution that I'm from,
Right.
and that it's an engineering school, and so maybe that's why it's on all the degree plans. But that's a conversation I probably need to have with some people in my department.
And to me, it's not an issue of, well, this is a higher caliber school. UC Davis, where I got my doctoral degree, does not require calculus for many degree fields, including public health. Even at a master's and graduate, at a PhD level, calculus is not required for those. So it may be specific to Texas, that at these top universities, you have to have calculus for every degree. I'm not in a position to say they should have to have it or not have it. I don't know.
I mean,
I just don't understand the rationale.
And
for why
also,
they
our
call it.
original voting for the business calculus, it was 3-4.
Right.
And this other calculus is 3-6. So
Well, if you
someone
reflect-
on this board, at least besides Rhonda, 2 other individuals also
Right.
felt the same.
Right.
And if you look back, UT Austin also recommended calculus, cannot talk, for a
Calcium.
clinical lab as well. I think this may just be a general requirement that they have, just like A&M.
so I see also, one of the other recommendations and so, maybe but there was a recommendation to add pre-cal to the public health track. So we have pre-cal, we have cal, calculus, business, and, so those are the 3. There's another comment to add pre-cal. I don't know.
I mean, I'm fine with sending it back out to vote
Yeah.
for public comments and
Comments,
see
yeah.
what the public health schools, maybe we'll get more from the public health schools.
Mhm.
So, or we're at 54 hours now. A compromise would be to add another calculus and take it up to 58 and then wait for the public comments. So that requires a new motion to add a calculus in there.
In many of the comments, there were rationale for adding science, but no rationale for adding calculus.
So I think
So
if
that's
we,
why I'm confused and conflicted about it, because the ones who said, well, we really need biology because it is a prerequisite for these other courses in public health. and if they don't have it, the students will fail. But I didn't see anything that said if they don't have calculus, they're going to fail at public health. So that's my rationale for voting no. If we have to have it to succeed in our courses, then we need to have it. Absolutely. I have no doubt that they would need to have it.
But I think we need to remember that this is for transfer students.
Right.
And so with that in mind, if we have these institutions, it sounds like there are several of them who do prefer the calculus requirement, I think it needs to be on the list.
Yeah, I mean, there's calculus and there's, like I said, there's another institutions recommending pre-cal. So obviously there is some.
Because even if a transfer student went to an institution who did not have it as a prereq, they're coming in, they're going to fulfill their prereqs with that course. It doesn't mean that you have to offer it and have it as a prereq at your institution. It means that you accept it from a transfer student.
So again, if you're requiring calculus, the prerequisite for calculus is pre-cal. So you're,
I'm just thinking out loud.
I mean, without going over,
And if we don't add it, then we'll get more public comments back and maybe some rationale. And maybe the rationale then would be there to say, here's why we need to have this.
Thoughts?
Yes. And explain why they need to have it. Because if we're going to add something like calculus to public health, those universities or colleges that don't require it are going to say, what the heck is this? None of our public health courses require calculus. Why should we add it? Just because A&M has it. If it's on the field of study. Right, but if we put it on the field of study, then they have to have it. Is that
Have
correct?
to fit it on the degree plan, yes.
So they would have to have it. They would have to have it.
If they're come in field of study complete. Yeah.
Right. They would have to have it. That means that they would have to have calculus as a requirement for their students.
You have to accept that course for credit for one of the courses that you require. That's
You
what
don't
I'm
have to
getting at.
create
You
a
don't have
course.
to require it. You have to accept those transfer credits to replace one of your requirements.
now you are forcing your community college students to take pre-cal and anything else in order to get to calculus.
But that puts them qualified at the high ladder, high ring of the ladder. Does that make sense?
If they
So-
want to transfer into Texas A&M
Yes.
University and go with a public health degree, a bachelor's in
have.
public health, they have to have calculus. And so they'll take it at the community college if it's available.
And if they choose to go to Tarleton, they will accept that with the back credit and they'll replace it for one of their requirements because it's at a higher level of math.
Well, first of all, we don't have 300 level required calculus courses on our degree plans in public health. Yeah. There's 6 hours of math that's required, and they're all 100 level, 200 level courses. If you come in FOS complete that doesn't have calculus, then yes, we will have to find places on the degree plan for that.
Right.
Yeah. And then we can't, unless it's core, right? If it's core, we can still require it, correct?
If they're done with the core, if they're core complete and FOS complete, they're complete with all their lower division
But if
requirements.
they come in FOS complete and they're not core complete?
And they're not complete in their math requirement, then you couldn't require them to take calculus, but you could advise them to.
Okay.
So we already voted on this. Can we go to the next one and put this out for public comment?
What was the vote?
Requiring calculus 1, not requiring calculus 8, and 1 abstain.
Okay.
So it's going to go out as not requiring calculus, and then we'll get the comment back saying, no, what are you doing? We have to have calculus.
We voted to not require calculus 1 or calculus 2, correct?
Correct.
Okay, any calculus. Okay,
Right.
yeah, it'll come back.
Okay.
Well, when and if A&M puts in their public comment, be sure to have them include a justification and some extended comment on that, and maybe that'll help.
I think with that being, I think it would be appropriate to go to we'll do CC, which is require pre-cal in the public health track. We currently voted not to do that 1 to 7. Any discussion? Adding pre-cal, any discussion? All right, so the motion to require pre-cal in the public health track, all those in favor? Oppose? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oppose? Abstain? 2. All right. So motion fails not to add the pre-cal. All right, so last 3 things with this public health track have to deal with creating courses. I'm going to try to build some momentum. So AA, which is create a ACGM course on research methods in public health. We voted 5 to 4 to do that. Open up the floor for discussion.
Is there not a similar course already available? Does anyone have that list with them?
So from what I understand, there is I don't think there are any public health courses in the ACGM. I think public health is a kind of a new area in the lower division. I think there was and I was going to send this out to the group, but there was a task force that met to talk about offering some courses in public health at the lower division. And one of the courses I know was an intro course, and then there's the other course. I can't remember what the other course is, but I don't know. A research methods course seems that would be more for upper division versus a lower division.
This has nothing to do with the degree. It's just from the perspective of community college, I would love to have these 2 ACGM courses to offer as the elective options in an AS degree for a student that wanted to go to a 4-year university for a public health degree. I think it'd be a brilliant option, but how does it fit into their actual public health degree? I don't know.
Is there room in a public health degree to add 2 more courses? Public,
Yeah, there's 3.
Intro to public health, research,
There's 3
public
courses
health.
that we're going to talk about.
and, oh, yes, and then epidemiology and public health. And No, I never have. I have a graduate minor. I've never used calculus. I'm really at a loss.
Of course, you're talking about here, the research
But
methods
it seems
course.
that epidemiology would also be an upper
So,
level.
Alan, you have some. So, Alan, you have some data on the research
Yeah,
methods
for
course?
the epidemiology course? Or is that the one you're talking about?
Research.
The research methods.
Methods, I'm sorry. Yeah, the research methods, we have 7 institutions that offer it, and of these, 1 offers it at the lower division, UNT, and the remaining 6 offer it at the upper division.
Yeah, that's.
And again, I'm not always sure that
An
just
upper
because
division
they
course.
offer a course doesn't necessarily mean they require it as part of the public health degree, but the information that we have about offering, it's not offered that often, and when it is, it's almost always at the upper division, except for UNTs.
Yeah. So, any other discussion? All right, so,
It looks like only 2 institutions offer specifically health science. Offer research methods specifically for public health. And that's UT Arlington and UT Austin. And both of those institutions offer it at the upper division level in the senior year, actually.
yeah.
We do. You can't have,
Correct, yeah.
right.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. So motion is to create a ACGM course on research methods. All those in favor? We have 1. Oppose? 9. So.
And I'll add that was completely self-serving.
All right, so BB, which is create an ACGM course in epidemiological concepts and methods for public health. This was a split decision 4-4 and to offer this. Any discussion?
We have epidemiology, but it's a
Upper level,
division.
yeah. I mean,
We have an
that's-
intro to epidemiology that's lower level, lower division. And it seems to suffice this requirement.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I could see this fitting in the same way. There's a group known as the League for Innovation. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with them.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I sent out to
Yeah.
the group.
And
The-
they've
mhm.
published with, they've partnered with the National Organization for Public Health. I can't think of who they are. Some of y'all may know who they are. But they've done a great deal of work in trying to push the beginning levels of the public health degree down to the bachelor's level and to the associate level to get people started in that track and get them some introductory knowledge in that. And this would go towards that, and it would fit well into articulation agreements between community colleges and four-year colleges. But again, that's self-serving, so.
But could you not use the introduction to epidemiology for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all 3 of these courses would be great for that, but that's my view. That's not a public health view. That's how we would fit into the public health continuum.
As you can see here on the screen, it's courses that are similar to this one are offered pretty widely. 4 offered at the lower division and 19 offered at the upper division.
Yeah.
So this looks like to me a sign of a trend that is moving downwards.
Well, and I kind of purposely held the introduction to public health last because when we look at the data for that, you're going to see the difference with, how it's offered versus at the lower level versus the upper division.
And I find that really interesting because many of the other degree programs are actually moving the credentials up. So for nutrition, for example, it used to be that you could do an associate degree, become a diet tech. That is no longer the case. As of 2024, everything, they're transitioning now, and it will require a bachelor's degree to be a diet tech. It will require a master's to sit for the RD exam. And that's true now with occupational therapy as well. It's true with physical therapy. Everything's moving those degrees up and up.
Yes, I
And
agree
public
with
health is
that.
going down.
So,
Is this odd?
well, yeah, maybe yes and no. So a lot of these degrees, they're moving up to professional doctorate. But at the same time, you see an emergence of these specific disciplines with assistants coming out now. You have anesthesiology assistant, this assistant, that it all pushes down to the associate's level.
Yeah, and one of the things that you're seeing with the public health is, at the associate level, at the 2-year level, they're pushing towards a community health worker, which is kind of a public health assistant, right? And then there's public health education that they're pushing down towards the 2-year degree. And that's where these courses would fit into that. And that may be where they're actually using these courses here, is to get these students an introduction into that area and to give them an idea of what the different areas are that they could go into from there. But again, I'm not in public health, so I don't know what the purpose of this course is for them. That's what the purpose of the course would be for us.
All right, so motion is to create an ACGM course on epidemiology concepts for a public health track. All those in favor?
I'm just kind of questioning
Oh,
the difference between an intro to epidemiology and epidemiological concepts and methods for public health. I mean, do we need all these different lower level epidemiology courses?
I don't think so. I think that if you have people teaching epidemiology, they're teaching various levels of epidemiology. Why do you need to create another course just for public health?
Yeah, yeah. All right, okay. All those in favor? 1, oppose? 9. All right. And then let's see, the last one is Z, which is to create an ACGM course in Introduction to Public Health and add that to the public health track. So we voted 6-3 in favor of doing this. Any discussion? And Alan, you have some data on this as well, right?
Yeah, the data on this one is a lot less conclusive. There are 12 institutions, or 12 programs, I should say, that offer it at the lower division and 12 that offer it at the upper division. So some do and some don't. Again, not everyone that offers it necessarily requires it for a program. As you can see, though, there's quite a range in the rubrics. So some are, which might be an indication that it's offered or as credit towards various programs. There's kinesiology, public health, health. I don't know what IS is. ALHS, EPPS, HA, no idea. But anyway, and the ones in yellow are the heavy producers, the institutions that produce the highest number of graduates. And of these, it's 3 of the heavy hitters offer it at the lower division and 2 of the heavy hitters offer it at the upper division.
Yeah.
So there seems to be little consensus in the discipline about where this one actually belongs.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly to Don's point. I think this is an introduction course. It's a good course to be able to offer at the lower level, a good introduction to public health. And so that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, and the issue here is that none of these courses are actually ACGM rubrics. None of these that are listed here. Those are not ACGM rubrics. There's not an ACGM course that we could offer, but if we created an ACGM course, it could substitute for any of these.
Would that be a problem, the schools that have it as a 3,000 or 4,000 level course?
Well, then again, that depends on the level they're teaching to. If it's more specific and it's more, and the outcomes are higher, then no, they wouldn't have to substitute it for that. If the outcomes are the same, then they shouldn't be teaching it as an upper level course in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
For instance, what are they doing at UT Tyler? It's offered there as a 3,000 level. Would you have any trouble accepting Intro to Community Health as the equivalent of your community and public health? Yes or no? I mean, it looks like UT Tyler offers community and public health. If there were a new course in Introduction to Public Health, would it transfer in as the equivalent of that? Wouldn't, okay.
One of those bridge classes that were about just how to fight a program where you can go over and do part of your senior year as your
Okay. Well, that's an important point to consider, that just because we have a course title on here doesn't mean that we're all talking about the same course, because
Yeah, that is true.
institutions title their courses all kinds of
Yeah.
things. So these courses may not necessarily be at all equivalent to what's on the table here.
Yeah.
But if it's an introductory level course in the ACGM and it's a true introductory level course in that first, the first group that's the lower division, then that's going to be a pretty good option for a substitution for most of those courses. It's actually going to clean a lot of this up,
Yeah,
because a lot of them then would actually adopt the ACGM course.
that is correct.
Most universities would prefer to use an ACGM course as opposed to a different rubric if they could.
All right, any additional comments? All right, so the motion on the floor is to create a ACGM course in Introduction to Public Health and add it to the public health track. All those in favor? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oppose? 1, 2, 3, and abstain? 1, 2.
required for nutrition. Require it for nutrition. No, that doesn't tell me why. It tells me you require it for every degree. It doesn't tell me why you require it for every degree. No, I wanted to see. I wanted to find out. Was it required for nutrition?
So, all right.
Okay, so can we entertain a
So-
motion to accept then, take a look one more time at this? Does this look all right for what we want to put out for public comment? Am I missing anything?
I think we'll get a lot of comments.
So the last one
No.
did not pass. So we needed 6. So does anybody want to sway their vote?
Well, we talked about coming back to the other vote that had a 5 to 5 yes, 5 combined, no or maybe.
Biology one.
Oh, no, we did. We fixed that one. We fixed that one. We
Okay.
came because we added the bio 2. So we corrected that one that we were going to come back to.
Okay.
So any sway in votes for adding the introduction to public health? Is there any sways? Any? No? All right, no. Well, so it looks like it stands as is. That's it.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve this public health track as it appears amended?
We have a motion, we have a seconded. So all in favor to approve the public health track? All right, what's that? 9, oppose, abstain.
Somebody didn't vote.
Somebody didn't vote.
Sorry, it's probably me.
Okay.
Okay,
What
so,
were you? Yeah, abstain. We have one, so 9, 4, no opposed, 1 abstain. And we did it.
Don't,
But
Yeah,
we do have to consider the meeting minutes from last meeting. So we need to approve those minutes. Did everybody have a chance to look at those minutes from last time? And if everybody's okay with those minutes, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting of May 2nd and 3rd.
I approve.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. So let's go ahead and vote. Those who approve the minutes, say yes. Okay. We have approved the minutes for the last meeting.
Okay, good. And I'd like to go on record thanking Nini Maniotis, who's not here, who did a really excellent job with the minutes. It was very helpful. So thanks to her.
Yes.
To come back to something that we kicked the can down the road on, I take it from the thorough discussion of the public health track and the careful consideration you gave to the motions and the approval that you gave to it, that you're not interested in forming a subcommittee or a separate committee at this time for public health? Okay,
I think we need to make that decision after we see what the public comments are, and then keep that option open
I see.
to have that shifted to someone more knowledgeable to make those choices,
Okay. We'll just have to
at least
see
a
if
group
you-
that feels more comfortable making those choices.
Okay. So that will happen when we review the public comments next time. Keep that in mind for an option when we see what reaction we get to public health. Also, can we do what we did at the end of the first meeting and authorize your co-chairs to make adjustments to the FOS as required, to approve the minutes for this meeting, and to take care of any other business on your behalf, so that we don't have to come back in person to take care of relatively small changes? If there are any changes to the FOS, then of course you would all be solicited for your opinions on that, and your opinions would inform the judgment of our 2 co-chairs, who would be able to make things on your behalf. I would anticipate a minor change would be something like, say a course has a co-requisite or say a course is cross-listed with some other course, and we didn't notice that here today. I could add that cross-listed course as an option to the course that you approved. That would be a minor change, and it would be the kind of thing I'm talking about. So if we could have a motion to that effect to authorize the co-chairs to make changes on behalf of the committee with input from the committee and to approve the minutes, then that would be helpful. Okay. Did we vote?
With that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
No,
No, we're not done? Oh, we have to vote.
Oh.
Sorry.
Don't get too ahead.
Forgot to vote. I forgot to
We
vote.
have 55 seconds to
We
go.
do.
We have
We do.
time to vote. Okay.
Okay, so we have our motion, so we need to vote.
Right.
Everybody says aye? Approve? Motion is approved
Excellent.
unanimously. The
Okay,
meeting is
any other
adjourned.
business before we adjourn?
Oh, any other
This is for the good of the committee.
Any other business before we adjourn?
No, it's important, because have we left anything out? Are there any concerns that you brought with you from your colleagues or yourself about the field of study before we stop talking about it? Okay, well, what will happen next is I will send this back out for another 30-day public comment period. I'll set up another online poll and send you a ballot and have you check off yeses or nos. And then I don't know what will happen after that. It depends on what you say. If there's just 1 or 2, maybe add or tweak something, perhaps we can take care of that. If there are major changes, then we reserve the right to come back for a 3rd meeting. And if that happens, that would be like 60 days from now, probably. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that will be in consultation with our co-chairs and with all of you and with coordinating board staff. So but again, on behalf of the coordinating board, I know this is a demanding day and a demanding day on top of long travel for many of you. And we are very deeply appreciative of your continued help on all this. Please make note of the time that you spent traveling today and the time you spent at this meeting, and make a note on that online section where you keep track of your time and expenses. Let us know how much you've spent today so that we can let the state legislature know exactly what these meetings are costing the state. It's helpful to us. Uh-huh. Oh, really? Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. Has it worked for others?
I clicked on it, and it took me back to one of the other.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll double check that and send it back to everybody. My apologies. Okay, thanks, and thank you to all those in the booth who helped record this, and we will stand adjourned.